What's up, guys? It's your man Donovan Sharpe, and welcome to the special Friday Q&A edition of TSR Live, your daily dose of red pill truth, wisdom, and awareness. We are brought to you in part by Gorilla Mind Rush, the #1 supplement on the market for focus, energy, and concentration. It is non-habit forming and zero crash. To get your hands on a bottle or 70, go to donovansharpe.com/Gorilla Mind Rush, and you will be increasing your productivity as well as supporting the show. Let's get right to it. My guest today needs no introduction. He, of course, is Rollo Tomassi, the godfather of the manosphere, the godfather of the red pill. It's been a while since we've done a show. I think we did a show a couple of months ago, but things are cyclical, right? We get busy, we do things. I just moved into this, nice new studio.
Yeah, looks good, man.
Yeah, thank you very much. Worked very, very hard on it. So tell my audience who don't, they know who you are, but what have you been up to?
I'm just writing a book, man.
Okay, good stuff.
Working on book 4 right now. I'm hopefully going to have it ready like first quarter of 2020. So sometime between now and March, I'd say.
Okay.
And that is it's been an interesting, I won't say slog, but it's been an interesting year. I actually was hoping to have it out this year in 2019, but I got kind of, as people know, I've got some setbacks and some things that were happening in my life, my real life, that were really kind of distracting. But well, yeah, exactly. Like right now, I'm kind of I don't know, I guess balancing out right now, and so. So it's allowed me to get the book to an editor. I'm actually working with an editor on this one. A lot of people kept saying, well, how come we didn't use an editor? You got to remember that when I wrote book 1, that everybody, considers the Red Pill Bible right now, that was only ever going to be just that one book. It wasn't ever going to be, I didn't have any plans to be, Rollo Tomassi, the writer or the author or whatever. And it just it went so big and it became such a phenomenon that, I wrote two more books since then in the series. And then I've got the 4th one coming out, which is going to be The Red Pill and Religion, which I think is going to rattle a lot of people's cages. This book is going to be kind of an outlier, I think, because it's still going to be part of the series, but I'm aiming this more at like a religious readership, and I'm going to actually categorize it as such. I've made the decision that I'm going to do that.
You're going to do that, huh?
Yeah. Well, I kind of, I've kind of, I don't want to say I focus grouped it, but I talked to a lot of people, and they, like, right now, all of my books, if you go and you look at my books, they are in like sort of like the self-help section, or the 3rd book is in like parenting, and because about the first 2/3 of that book,
medicine, I suppose. Yeah,
it's about red pill parenting. That's actually was the impetus to write the 3rd book, was because I had so many guys saying, when should I give the rational male to my sons? And I'm like,
as soon as she spits,
don't. Please wait till they get to the point where they're readers. And I get it, because a lot of guys who have this material or have the red pill sort of change their lives, they want to share it, man. I mean, they want to share it with their friends and of course their sons. They don't want their sons to have to go through the same kind of suicidal crap that they had to go through. And and I get it. So that's why I wrote that one. The 2nd one, of course, I wrote because I had so many guys telling me, gosh, Rollo, I wish I would have had this stuff when I was, 19, or I wish I would have known this stuff when I was 20. I wish I would have known, then what I know now. And so that's why I wrote the 2nd book, because so many people wanted me to say something about, like, what they can expect from women at different phases of maturity. So that's why I wrote that. And so the 4th book is about religion. And that was I would say, next to everything else, that's been the #1 question I get from guys is, like, I'm a Christian, and how do I incorporate this stuff into my convictions or my lifestyle, or and of course, the moment I said I was going to write a book on religion, everybody came out of the woodwork, right? I had Jews, I had Muslims. I just did 2 weeks ago, I did a interview with Abu American, and he's he's a really cool guy, just a really good dude to just even, just shoot the breeze with. But he's got 2 wives, and he's marrying a 3rd one. And I wanted to pick his brain for religion the Red Pill, which is a show that I've kind of developed over the last year. And I think I'm going to probably put a lot more time into now that I've got this book coming out. So that was kind of like a primer, I guess, for the book. But like the book that I'm working on right now, the fourth book it's how can you use red pill knowledge and red pill awareness, from a religious perspective. And I came across a really great book in my research, and it's called Alpha God, and it's by this evolutionary psychologist, Dr. Hector Garcia.
Okay.
And really, really eye-opening stuff. Now, he goes in a direction that I don't go, obviously, because he's not really a red pill writer, or from my perspective, it's not a manosphere writer, anyways.
Right.
But really eye-opening book about how the God of Abraham, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, is really follows an alpha male, well, I should say a primate, an alpha primate's imperatives, meaning that, it's access to women, control over sexuality, male dominance. And so if you look at the God of the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, very much an alpha male is the archetype for the God, for the Godhead, right? And so so he explores that really from an evolutionary psychology perspective. And I found it really interesting because it sort of dovetails really nicely with what I was writing about. And I would very much like to interview him, or at least, just sort of have a one-on-one and talk with the guy, because it's just fascinating stuff. But that's not what I'm doing in this book, but it like I said, it would be a very good complement to this book. So if you guys haven't checked that out, it's really good. It'll definitely challenge your way of thinking about certain religions. And it is, it's written, I think, really from an anti-masculine perspective too. So it's like, the reason we have violence, and the reason we have rape, and the reason we have all this stuff because of these religions is because those religions are based on patriarchy.
Right.
And he's not wrong. They are based on patriarchy. And a lot of the stuff he talks about is absolutely true. But is that necessarily bad, or is that good? And it also, one of the things that I explore in book 4 is like he talks about, the Abrahamic religions as being sort of, excuse me, being being religions by men for men. And in my book, I talk about, how religion is being assimilated, like mainstream religions are being assimilated by the feminine imperative, by women right now. And so it's more women in missionaries right now. It's more women ministers now. It's more women in positions of leadership and teaching and like pastorships and basically leaderships. And and I mean that in mainstream religions. I don't mean that in like, Eastern Orthodox or something like that, but I'm in those situations. And so my question is this: what does a female primary religion look like? And to me, where I see it going is sort of this one world religion of inclusivity and multiculturalism and Unitarianism, and everybody's welcome, everybody come. It doesn't matter what the religion was all about. It's just everybody come in the door, and let's get enough asses in the seats so we can all, be. What I foresee happening is we'll have, I would say within the next 10 to 15 years, we will have a new kind of large scale sort of Church of Oprah or Church of Beyonce kind of thing. Like I'm already seeing the Beyonce worship services at some of these churches in San Francisco. And I really think you're going to see a lot of the factionalism, particularly in Christianity, is going to sort of coalesce into this female primary religion that's based on love, and that's all they're going to call it. It's just going to be called love. And if you're not a part of it, then you're a hater, so it'll be love versus hate, and then it won't be about the faith anymore. The other one other last thing here real quick is, and I just started, I'm glad I've taken my time with this book, because I just started getting interested in the push in Western society amongst Western women to get involved in Krishna right now. And I don't know if you know this or not, but Tulsi Gabbard, presidential candidate for the Democratic Party, is a Krishna.
No, are you serious?
Krishna, yeah. And if you look at her, and then you also look at Marianne Williamson, who's also part of the Democratic ticket, or nominally part. They're both nominally part of the Democratic ticket, but both of them are kind of like really spiritual but not religious, and Tulsi Gabbard is very much a Krishna.
What?
And so I've been exploring like how Krishna sort of fits into all this. So I'm thinking I might put like just one very short chapter about Krishna in the fourth book as well.
Why would you? That thanks for comments. I'm going to get to, or area code 850, I see you in the queue. I'm going to get to you in just 1 second. I got a comment in the chats from Jagatlis, says glad Donovan is back in the gang. Dude, I never left any sort of gang, right? Like, it was so funny that not to get off on a tangent with this, but people thought that we were going to be forced to choose sides. And that's really not, well, that's not what happened with me. I can do shows with whoever the hell I want to do shows with. I didn't get kicked out of any gang. It's nothing like that. Dude, you and I, we text all the time. I've had you on my show 2-3 times since then. So I don't want to make it about, Donovan and Rollo are burying the hatchet. There was no hatchet.
There's no hatchet to bury in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. So, all right, good stuff, man. So before we get into what we're going to talk about, we're going to start off the show talking about Robin Korth. And I did.
Yeah, man, that's like a blast from the past too. When you hit me up and said, hey man, I didn't know you wrote a story or wrote an essay about Robin Korth. I'm like, that is a long ass time ago.
Dude, that was a very long time ago. We're definitely going to get into that. Before we do that, let us go to area code 850. 850, you are on live with Donovan and Rollo. Go ahead.
What's going on?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Right.
Doing very well. I just have this is going to be kind of elongated, but not necessarily that long. How do I ease the digestion of the red pill for my homeboy? So basically, my friend, he had a girl he was seeing. She was a 6, very clearly, but, he still was simping for her. He provided her unworthy validation and tried to put him, and I tried to put him on the red pill, but he shrugged me off. Like, her utter existence was a benignity to himself, right?
Okay.
So he bought her roses and took her to the Ritz, trip to Jamaica, and he found out that she was cheating on him with a drug dealer.
Big shock.
Nothing to his name, but probably great dick, right?
Right.
And then now I'm tasked with lifting the veil, and he's in horror, and he's rejecting the red pill. How do I ease him into it?
Yeah. Well, listen, I'll go first here, and then I'll let Rollo hit cleanup. I'm always of the mind that you cannot. The men who digest the red pill the most and the most complete are the men who seek it out. It never happens when it's almost like a religious thing, right? If you were to die tonight, do you think that, no. This is not a Lamb's Book of Life type of deal. Most people find religion because either they were brought up in religion or something bad happened to them and they wanted to seek out something greater than themselves, some sort of community to sort of help them get over this tragedy. Well, it's the same thing as the red pill. There's no such thing as a man who's fucking 5 different girls who looks up, well, how do I fuck? No. If you're good with women, you don't go looking for the red pill. Men who go looking for the red pill are men who have been cheated on their girlfriends or wives. I find out that one of my kids are not biologically mine. I haven't gotten laid in 5 years, et cetera, et cetera. So my advice to you is that you can't ease anybody into the red pill. What I would do if I were you is I would sort of suggest to him, hey, you know what? I read The Rational Male the other day. It's kind of an interesting book. You don't have to indicate to him one way or the other what you think of it. There's some interesting thoughts in here. Here, I'm going to give you the book. Tell me what you think. Or, there's this crazy guy on YouTube. His name is Donovan Sharpe. He's got a lot of crazy ideas about women. I don't know. Take a look at it and tell me what you think. If he comes back to you with questions about it, then you can have that dialogue. But if you try to proactively tell your homeboys, and I know you want to help them because we've all been there, but if you try to proactively tell people that you care about the red pill, one of a few things is going to happen. Number one, they're going to just reject it. They'll say, well, yeah, what you're saying is correct, but not all women are like that. Number two, totally, I'm going to totally change. And then they end up going right back to what they were doing. And number three, what they'll do is they'll isolate you. They'll separate themselves from you, from their lives, because a lot of guys go back and tell their girlfriends, yeah, Donovan told me about this red pill website and it says this and that and the other. Guess what she's going to say? You can't hang out with Donovan anymore. So that's my advice to you. You can never proactively tell or try to save your friends in terms of red pill awareness is concerned. Rollo, what are your thoughts on that?
All right. Well, first off, there's a few things you have to remember here, and I completely co-sign with everything that you've been saying here. A lot of guys want to evangelize for the red pill, like when they have something that like changes their lives, or like they had the gun in their mouth and they're like, hey, well, I read this book, or I heard this from somebody, and so I started getting into this, and now I have a better understanding of what I was going through.
Right.
And I realized that, you know, my life is not some Shakespearean tragedy, and I, you know, now I want to tell my son, I want to tell my dad, maybe, or somebody in my family, some of my homeboys, you know, whoever, I want to tell them about this too. And so because it helped you, you think, oh, these guys will have that great epiphany too, and they'll be able to they'll be able to benefit from this as well. And like I said, it's almost like evangelizing for it. But the problem is like so many guys they've been brought up in a blue pill conditioning that teaches them to reject anything that would in any way be unflattering to the feminine. So, you know, everybody's those guys are just a bunch of misogynists or whatever. And the way that I tell guys is like, it's like triage. Okay. You help the ones that you can, and you read Last Rites to the Dying, and you just move on to the next guys. Because what I've found out is, like, I have guys that will just like stare me in the face and like, you know, tell me to go F off or something, you know, or that you're a chauvinist. I'll never, you know, that you're crazy, whatever. And then 6 months later, they'll come back and they'll go, you know what, dude, you were so right. You know, I've got guys in my DMs right now who like were totally like, they blocked me, they hated on me, and then they came back later on. They go, you know what, I read your book, and you know, I finally broke up with her, and now I totally understand what you're talking about. So I try to like not let that. I mean, this is me. I've been doing this for, you know, since 2001, but I try not to, you know, even when I was just a moderator on So Suave, I try not to take that too personally, because I know that at some point they'll figure that out. But you're right. You have to come to a point of crisis, a point of trauma. And then there's 5 stages of unplugging.
Okay.
And those 5 stages of unplugging are very similar to the 5 stages of grief. And so what that is the first stage is denial. And that's probably where most guys stop. Right? They're like, oh, you guys are just a bunch of misogynists.
Women.
You know, these guys are a bunch of clowns. Yeah, they're incels. They'll never get this. There's no way this works on women. Women aren't that stupid. Blah blah blah. And then what happens is they'll get into like that crisis situation. Then they'll move to the second phase, and the second phase is anger. And so usually that anger is self-directed, unless it's like these guys who are just like, I can't believe I was that stupid. And they'll get angry at women, or they'll get angry at the nature of women.
Right.
But really what they are is they're angry with themselves. And so they're like, oh, this is ridiculous. Why should I have to jump through all these hoops for women? I just want to be myself. Why couldn't I have been a natural alpha? And there's all of this, you know, and so then there's this blaming that goes along. I blame my dad. I blame the society. I blame women's nature. I blame this. And it's sort of this sorting out of the anger phase. And a lot of guys get stuck there. I ain't gonna lie. A lot of dudes get stuck in there. But if you move on from that, if you realize that anger is not really directed outward, but more at yourself, because you believe those lies for so long, then if you can get past that, you get to the bargaining stage. And that's the third stage, which is bargaining, which is, you know, well, you know, maybe the red pill has some good points, you know, but the hot girls are way out of my league. I'll give it a try. I'll see what happens. Do I have to wear the fuzzy hats? Do I have to, you know, do I have to paint my fingernails black, you know, like the POA thing? And so there's this kind of back and forth as well. Maybe I'll try a little bit, maybe I won't. And then like guys get into the fourth stage is depression. And they think, oh my God, this stuff actually works. How can this stuff actually work? I can't believe women are like this. I've been told my entire life that women are one way, or you know, we should always be thankful when they're attracted to us, or all this stuff. And then like your friend said here is he's just realizing this out right now. And I think probably at some stage he's gonna go into the depression side, because he's with a girl who is dating him at the same time, where he's taking her to Jamaica, doing all this good stuff, but she's also dating a drug dealer. Right. And now he realized, how does that, like, a lot of guys don't think about stuff like this, but they're like, how does that reflect on them? Like, here I am being this nice guy, taking her on these expensive vacations, doing these things for her, paying for whatever that I'm paying for. And yet she's still, just like the guys say in the red pill, like she's looking for that, you know, asshole alpha, that drug dealer alpha, that guy who has that, you know, I can't believe she would do that. Well, the depression comes from guys thinking, oh, well, she must be a low quality woman, or there must be something
There you
wrong with
go.
her, or we've got to, then that goes back to the bargaining. And then finally, the fifth stage is acceptance. And that's where these guys will get to the point where they're like, okay, maybe this is the way things really work. And then how can I use this to my own benefit? So, what I would say, and that's a really long-winded way of saying things. Some guys get into they say that there's a sixth part of that too, which is like they get jaded and they're like, I don't want to care. I don't really care about anything. And yeah, they just basically give up on it. But the acceptance side is like, how can I use this for my own betterment? How can I live a better life with red pill awareness? So watch for those stages for your friend. And then once you know those things, then you can you're better able to tell him what it is that what he needs to hear at that particular time. And the other thing is, don't force it on him. Don't push it on him. Yeah. Don't, because a lot of guys want to get into, like I said, the evangelism of the red pill, and most guys aren't ready for that. Nope. They have to be in a point of crisis. They have to be in a point of trauma, and
even then, sometimes they don't listen.
Yeah, and even then, they're still going to be resistant to it. But here's my other point, and this is something I tell guys as well: wait for your moments, right? If something like this is a moment, right?
Right.
Well, look, exactly what I'm telling you here. She's going after this, alpha a-hole drug dealer. That's exactly what we talk about when we say, alpha fucks beta bucks. Women break rules for alphas and they make rules for betas. You're the beta who has to jump through all these hoops. She's breaking rules that she's making for you with the guy who's the drug dealer, right? So you can make those illustrations, but you have to wait for your moments. So like what I tell guys is, like, if you see a story in the news, or if you see something going on in your social circle, or maybe you hear something in the media, or like music, or lyrics to a song, you look at a movie scripts and things like that, you can sort of point out with a red pill lens, like what's really going on in those things, and then ask questions. Don't say, hey, that's just like what I said. No, don't do that. Say, don't you think that that's kind of like what the red pill talks about when they talk about women's nature? And you ask those questions, and you're there sort of, I don't want to say spoon feeding it to the guy, but just wait for those moments, and they come. You just have to be sensitive. And the problem most guys have is the guy will be resistant, and then you will go, screw it, I'm out, whatever. I'm not gonna deal with this guy who doesn't want to listen to me. But if you have the patience for it, and the guy is worth it, if your friend is worth you trying to help him out, then just like I said, it's not like some constant efforts you have to keep doing. Just wait for those moments, point them out, ask the right questions, and let him come to his own conclusions.
Okay. Yeah. Thomas Munir, I assume, or Munier, he says, I'm on the phone waiting. Yeah, guys. Listen, I appreciate you guys calling. I now have 6 callers, count them, 6 callers, with you going on 7. You guys have to understand. Yeah, you guys have to understand this. I'm going to try to get as many of you guys in here as soon as possible. But sometimes a lot of these questions don't require one-word answers. Like, we're going to try to answer these questions as completely and as thoroughly as we can. Big thanks goes out to Chris Von Erich with a $20 super chat. He says, 2 men who have influenced me. Keep up the tremendous work. I appreciate that. Let's go back to the phone lines. Let's go back to, let's hit area code 780. 780, you're on live with Donovan and Rollo. Go ahead. Okay, 780 has dropped off. What is
you're right about this. A lot of times, guys want these quick, easy elevator speech answers, and you know what? That doesn't happen with red pill awareness, because it's complex, man. A lot of this stuff is very complex, and you can't just say, "Oh yeah, bitches be crazy." That doesn't work, man. You have to explain why bitches be crazy.
Right. And bitches are crazy. Bitches be crazy, but we have to explain why. So no, I totally get it. Area code 904, you're on live with Rollo and Donovan. Go ahead.
Hey guys, hey, thanks for taking my call, man. You're my freaking heroes, both of you.
Absolutely.
Everything you do for me, Rollo. I'm in the process of reading your book right now. Became red pill aware maybe about 6-7 months ago. Long story short, I've been since then called toxic by my son's mother.
Yes.
In the process of raising a 13-year-old son. My question is, when do I make him red pill aware?
Oh, Yeah. See.
Yeah, Rolo, I'm gonna give you first crack at this. I gotta go and unlock my door because Amazon is getting ready to be here. And
okay, no problem. I'll take a long time. No, here's the deal. I wrote my third book, which is Positive Masculinity, for exactly that question. I had a lot of guys who would hit me up and they would say, well, you know, Rolo, your work really helped me out. It really changed the way I think about things. I'm living a better life. I'm actually living a life. And what they would say is, you know, I don't want my son to have to go through this, or my son's mother is one way, and I want to make sure that he grows up sort of at least in a red pill paradigm. I mean, maybe not. Maybe he's not like joining the manosphere at 13 years old. Okay, with my background in psychology, what I would say is this: is that like 13-year-old kid doesn't have the capacity for abstract thinking to really absorb anything that would be in my book. I mean, I'll use a lot of, you know, $10 words in the book, but I think really what you need to do at this age, particularly because he's 13. So a lot of kids are way more socially savvy from like, you know, 9 or 10 years old on up these days. But what you really need to do is live this stuff out and exemplify this and be that guy. And then, like I was telling the guy before, is you use opportunities that arise, whether it's in your own family or it's in your social circle, or with, I don't know if you have brothers or sisters, or you know, who people, you know, you want to use them as examples, and then ask those questions and sort of just, you know, lead him to like your point, because it's much easier. Like, kids don't want to be told anything, right? But if you teach them examples by doing those things, by being a part of that guy, you know, being a part of his life, of course, that's very, very important. Duh. Okay. But like how you're a part of his life is just as important as being there. So like, there's all these guys who will hit me up and they go, well, I'm a very involved parent. And they think they deserve like what I call relational equity, right? That I did my homework. I did his homework with him, and I went to his little league games, and I did all this stuff. It's like, yeah, but you were most likely a beta pussy while you were doing those things. That's self-defeating, and that kid is going to still be growing up and absorbing all of this, what I call information, and being raised by what I call the village, right? The village is the media, schools, you know, pop culture. You know, pop psychology as well. And I would be, a lot of guys are kind of like shocked when like their 10-year-old or their 12-year-old kid starts popping off or mouthing these words like, relationships are really hard work. And the kid's Billy's 10 years old, and he's like saying this Dr. Phil shit that comes out of his mouth, right? And guys are like, where the hell is this coming? Because suddenly they become red pill aware, and they go, where did he learn that? Well, he learned that from his school. He will learn that from his practically nothing but female teachers. Maybe he learned it in church. Maybe he learned it from a TV show. Maybe he learned it from the girls he's trying to get with that you don't know anything about, who are also saying, you know, if we're going to be boyfriend and girlfriend, you're going to really have to work hard. You say, well, they're kids. They wouldn't do. No. Even as young as 10, 12, 13 years old, they're already learning this stuff. They've already, like, what does it say? From 5 years on, kids are like, from 5 years old up, they're like little sponges, and they pick up everything around them. So the best thing I can tell you to do is live out a red pill example, live out a red pill life. Don't be a jerk about it, but be assertive about it and say this, and explain to him why you did what you did, or what you're doing and what you believe. And have him like, kids will not listen to what you say, but they will watch what you do, and they will learn from what you do. So that I think it's better to demonstrate and do not explicate.
There you go. Hey, but and this is interesting.
Thank you so much.
No, absolutely. Thanks for the call, area code 904. What's very interesting about the advice that you just gave him there right at the end, we say this all the time in the manosphere, Rolo. Women are overgrown children. You just told him, demonstrate, do not explicate. What is the advice that we give men when trying to show their women what they should and should not do? You demonstrate, you do not explicate. So that right there just shows you some of the similarities between women and of course children.
They're looking for an authority figure.
There you go.
Somebody who is driving the ship. You know, and if you're not driving the ship, the village will.
That's right.
And if you're not driving the ship, your out of control baby mama will be driving the ship. So you need to step up and drive the ship.
Absolutely. Big thanks goes out to Jason McGinty with the $4.99 super chat. By the way, area codes 347. We've got a caller from overseas 504-971-262 and 305 in that order coming up next. Jason McGinty with the $5 super chat says, 27-year-old man, I feel like I'm in the depression stage of red pill awareness. Any tips for getting to acceptance? Thanks, and keep up the good work. That's an interesting question, Rollo.
Well, let me lay this one on you. So, I've got anybody wants to read this, I've got an essay called "The 5 Stages of Unplugging." So, in the depression stage, it's really all about. You probably have read this because it's actually in the first book. It's called "The Bitter Taste of the Red Pill."
Oh yeah. Oh,
and so what I would suggest you do is go and read that chapter of the first book, because what happens is a lot of guys will suddenly realize, hey, I'm red pill. I see what's going on. The reason that you're depressed is because all the crap that you were thinking about was real before all this. Turns out you at least have questions about it, or it was just complete bullshit to begin with. So what guys do is they kind of like, when I talk about how I tell guys, I say, look, you need to kill the beta. You need to kill off who you used to be before, and you need to live in a new paradigm. Right. A lot of guys can't get from the depression stage to the acceptance stage because they're still clinging to that blue pill past. They're still clinging to the goals and the like, oh, can I have the red pill and still have the white picket fence? Can I have the red pill and still have my soulmate? Can I have the red pill and can I have this, right? Is there or I got a great idea. Maybe if I just did this red pill stuff, then I could have all that great idealistic Disney shit that I've been learning about since I was 5 years old, because I'm a sponge at 5 years old, right? So what they never really get past the idea that all the stuff that they had built their lives around or their goals around was based on that blue pill nonsense, that blue pill bullshit, right? The stuff that they were sold because the village or whoever or whatever, the feminine imperative, wanted you to play a role or be a certain person when you got to be about 30 years old and you were useful to them, right? And so what happens is those guys are, when you're blue pill conditioned from the time you're a kid all the way up to, let's just say, you're 25 years old. So for those 25 years, you have been living a life and building a life based on a blue pill paradigm, thinking that this is the way things are, this is how women are, this is how I should be if I want to be a success, if I want to be successful with women, if I want to be successful in life, if I want to please my parents, if I want to please my church, if I want to please society, these are the things that I have to do. And then when you're cut away from that at, let's just say for sake of argument, 25 years old, you don't know what to do with yourself, because now you know what's real. You have the red pill and you have that awareness and you understand what the game is right now, but you don't have a direction. You don't have a purpose. You don't have you don't have the creativity, I guess, to realize that this is an opportunity. And you're cutting yourself away from that blue pill paradigm that you had before. And that's why people get depressed, because what they're doing is, like I say, you need to kill the beta. But when you do kill the beta, when you do decide, you know what, I can't live like that old blue pill self anymore. I've got to go my own way, right? I've got to become something different. Once I've decided that I have to do that and I'm killing off that old personality, there's a period, I think, of like mourning the death of your old self.
And that might be the depression, right?
Mm-hmm. That's what causes the depression, because you're like, oh man, I really, really, really bad wanted all of this blue pill shit to be good and real and work out for me. And now you're saying it's not. You want to know why guys are so resistant, even in the worst trauma and the worst crisis? Because that is like what keeps them alive, is that blue pill hope that they can have that perfect, girlfriend or their perfect soulmate, and they can have those kids and they can have all that stuff. And then they realize, well, this is really the real nature of women, and this is the real game that I'm involved in. And once they're cut away from that, it gets depressing, man. It's like you think the part of the depression, I think, is when like somebody like let's just say a pickup artist like Mystery, right? Mystery comes along and says, this is actually the nature of women. And you're like, no, man, you look at the guy and you go, how could you possibly be successful with women? And then you start to realize all the stuff he's saying about women is true. And it works for him. It might not work for you, but the basis of why he's doing what he's doing is actually true. And that's what throws guys off, because they have this impression or this idea of how women should be, or how women present themselves, and they would like to be believed that this is really female nature. We're all very nice. I mean, you know, everybody's different, and it's this I don't want to say cult of individualism kind of thing. Like everything comes back to social constructionism, and the blank slate is for real, and all this other stuff, right? That you sort of build a belief set on, and suddenly that's all thrown out the window, and you're like, what the hell do I do now? What do I do? And you don't see what a lot of guys don't, when the guys who get stuck in the depression stage, they don't realize that there's more opportunity, and there's more fun and cool things to do, because now you at least have an idea of where you're at and how the game is actually being played. And they're just at the point, like they're white belts, right? When you go into to karate or something like that, it's like you thought you knew how to fight, and then the sensei says, dude, you don't know how to fight. Let me this is what will happen to you if you try to fight like that. Tell you what, you're a white belt right now. You could get to be a black belt later on, but you can't go back to what you were doing before you were even a white belt, because you get your ass kicked. And so you're a white belt. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And you have no like ideas of what you can do with this new information and this new red pill paradigm. But the good part is that you have more opportunity, because you have real information. You have accurate information now, and you can actually do something with that and build a better life. And there's guys who are in various stages of that. The guys who just got well, it's why we call it red pill, blue pill, right? Or the guy just got unplugged. That guy will go, oh man, I don't know what to do with myself. But like a year later on, he's like, okay, well, I tried these things and I did this and I'm learning this, and holy shit, this stuff actually works. Maybe if I did these two things, it would work for me, because I'm more comfortable doing it this way. And I don't want to be like Mystery with black nail polish and top hat, right? I want to be me, but I still need to live in a red pill paradigm. Here's how I'm going to do that. Or like when guys jump all over my ass about like MGTOW and shit like that, I'm like, look, anyone who unplugs from their blue pill life is technically going to go their own way in some way, shape, or form. Okay. Because you can't live like your old lifestyle, like what you had before. Like I said, you're a white belt, and you can't go back to just like, girl fighting and trying to figure things. That's the blue pill, is like this right here. Right. But once you get to be like, once you unplug from that, and you realize, this is how I need to be. This is how I need to train myself. This is how I need to experiment. You even have the permission to experiment with yourself. Like this guy was talking about, well, I read Rollo's book, and I became unplugged, and I became red pill aware, and now my ex-wife is calling me a misogynist asshole.
Good. You're doing
that means you're doing it right, man. Guess what? You're not a white belt anymore. You're a green belt now, or something like that. So you've just advanced like one or two belts, like to get up to where. And so guys and it's hard too, because when a woman calls you a jerk all of a sudden, or you're an asshole, you're actually a misogynist. I never knew that about you. But the thing is like your old blue pill self is still kind of going, oh man, she thinks I'm an asshole. She thinks I'm a misogynist. And you don't have that resiliency yet. You don't have that Teflon ass, Teflon coating on your ass just yet. So when you and I, we joke about this and say, well, a girl calls you a jerk, that means you're doing it right.
Right.
But to the guy who just unplugged, he's like, are you sure?
I want to be a jerk.
I want to be a jerk. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So just, moving on, I think the trick on moving on from depression to acceptance, because remember, acceptance also means putting it into practice or making it useful to yourself. You can be red pill aware and you can complain all day about chicks, and you can say, oh, women suck, man, because they won't play by my rules. And it's like, well, of course they're not. But guess what? You're red pill aware. You know better. And guess what? Now you can go and prepare, plan accordingly, do the things that you want to do that are going to be successful. Or maybe you don't know that, but you're willing to experiment now, because you have an accurate information base. You have a red pill lens, and you can now take that and use that to build a better life. They don't realize they have the tools to build a better life, and they're like, well, how do I use these tools? What am I going to do with these things? So they're still they're like a new artist, right? They're like a new sculptor, and they got these great tools and this big block of whatever the hell you're sculpting, right? Yeah. And you're like, I don't know what to do with these, but I'm gonna give it a shot. That's the thing, is you need to get to the point where you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna give it a shot. That's where you need to get to.
Very good. Well said. Big thanks goes out to King Nick with the $5.67 super chat. Says the 13-year-old son would be better off learning more game from joining a school sports team and developing social status from there. Truer words never spoken there. Also, big thanks goes out to, I just had it up here, Jay Mance. with the $10 super chat. He says, if I have to burn away that old self, does that mean I also burn away those girls from back then, the ones who I let friend zone me, but now want everything to do with the new me? Yes, absolutely. Get rid, yes, 100%. Get rid of those. Listen, and this isn't a matter of, well, if you didn't like me then you don't don't be that, well, if you can't handle me at my worst, then you don't deserve me at my best. No, that's not what this is. What these girls now realize is that you are not who you used to be. That's why they want more to do with you. But then but when you get with these girls and let them experience the new you, you are hereby rewarding them for having shit on you earlier. There are hot girls turning 18 every second of every minute of every day. There's no need to waste time on old trash. What are your thoughts on guys who say, hey, used to be blue pill, now I'm red pill, and now the girls who used to not give me a second thought, they're now all over me?
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. Most guys come to this at some point in their life, whether or not they become sort of red pill aware or not. What I get, and I'll tell you why, because what happens and if you've read my books, you understand my most infamous graph, right? The SMV graph where the two. Yeah. Okay. So when a guy gets to be about 30 years old, that is when he's just sort of on his ascendancy to his sexual market value peak years, which I usually peg about 36, 37. Some say earlier, some say later. I get it. That's why I've been at sort of the mean average there. So when the guy gets to be about 30 years old, suddenly all those girls that wouldn't give him the time of day when they were in their party years, when they were 23 years old, now that they're 30 years old, they think he is just the best friggin' thing on planet Earth. You've got you're almost partner and you're attorney, like you've made something of yourself. You've actually done something with your personal potential. Wow, I really want a piece of that. What guys do, especially blue pill guys, women hope that you will stay ignorant. They hope that when you are 30 to 31, 32 years old, they hope you're stupid. They hope you don't listen to Rollo Tomasi or Donovan Sharpe explain to you what's going on, because they need you in the dark, because when you get to that point and they go, you know what, I'm 28, 29 years old, and I've really had this epiphany, and I just decided that you know what, I want to do things right. I need to get right with God, and I need to change my lives up. I'm done with those bad boys. I've had enough of that. I took me a long time. I was in my journey of self-discovery, and now I see the light. And you know what? And right here in front of me all this time was this perfect guy.
Yes.
You've been such a good friend ever since we were back in high school at 17 years old. And you've been sitting around just, twiddling your thumbs and waiting for me to actually grow and to mature into the one that I am today. Yeah. And so what happens is the guy's like, oh, great, my ship's finally come in, and so you go, maybe she's got like two kids from like two different fathers or something like that. Or, maybe she's just done with the hot guy and the foam cannon party in Cancun on spring break. She's done with all those guys, but she still has to, okay, well, he's not as exciting as those guys, and he's not as fun as the guy in the foam cannon party. But I need some guy who's got some potential, who's going to be a good fit for the long haul. And I still want to have kids. And I know that if I don't do it soon, those guys are never going to commit. How about you? Right. Okay, I'll be happy to commit. Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, it's also very self-righteously kind of appealing to that mindset at that point in their lives, because they have been waiting so long. They're what I call betas in waiting. And I've got a great essay about that. It's called Betas in Waiting. And it's these guys who, from the time they're 5 years old, they're brought up in blue. That's why I call it blue pill conditioning, and not like, blue pill brainwashing. There's a form of psychological conditioning that we have been subjecting our kids to really since the late 60s and early, ever since like the sexual revolution. We feminize our little boys and we masculinize our little girls. Well, part of that feminization is turning that guy into the perfect shill or the perfect rube, I guess, when they get to be about 30 years old. And as long as they're kept in the dark about what women's mating strategy is, they're right there, and they're the perfect guy who's going to be the good dad. They're done with the cads from their party years. And this is all in my second book, Preventive Medicine. And then so when they get to be their epiphany phase, that's when they meet that guy who's still in the dark and he doesn't know any different, but he's got great prospects. Maybe he's doing his residency in the hospital, or he's going to make partner in the law team. I'm using those as like extreme examples, but maybe maybe he's got his own business, right? Or maybe he's doing something, and he is on his ascendancy while she is on her descendancy for her sexual market value. And it's at that point that all the chips are down, and women, we call this, the cock carousel or whatever. I usually just say, like, women need to sort of cash out of the casino before they don't have any more money left. And so they're looking for that guy who's going to sort of help them, like, forgive them of all of their sins from their, from their party years, and is going to start a family with them. And that's very affirming to guys who've been waiting patiently and saying, see, really, if all you got to do is just hold it,
wait and believe.
All you got to do is believe in yourself, and you got to just prepare yourself for the future, and you'll be a good husband. And then, of course, what happens is, like, 10 years later, they find themselves in divorce court because that same woman is now incentivized to divorce him because she can make more money off of that. She's got the kids, and she doesn't want to spend the rest of her life with Mr. Boring. She wants to get back to those other guys. And that leads me to the next point here, is what this guy was talking about. Is once you unplug, and this was his question, was once you unplug, do you have to burn away all those other girls that were? And my general rule of thumb is yes, absolutely. Burn away all those girls and don't go back and don't look back, because there's two things that are going on. The first one is that those women see you in a different light, and they see you opportunistically. And women's love is always based on opportunism, but they see you as a better opportunity now. The other thing is that if you've unplugged and you are more red pill aware and you're living your life in a different way, what happens is women will see that. They'll be attracted to that, of course, too. But in some ways, they're still kind of doubtful about it. Like, they don't think that your transformation is genuine. And your friends will say the same thing to you. They'll be like, well, why are you trying to be somebody you're not, man? Oh, you're not really like that. This is question of authenticity. And you might be like serious as a heart attack, and these guys are like, yeah, you're not really like that. I know what the real you is like. Then they'll be like, because they want that predictability. Yeah, they want that control over you.
And what they do, they'll try you. What they end up doing is they end up trying you just to see if they can see flashes of that. This, of course, is what we call shit testing.
Now, here's the other thing: is there's one more real quick thing here. There is there's what I call old flame, new game. And what that means is that because what guys will do is they'll embrace the red pill, they'll go hardcore red pill, they'll learn game, they'll be like, and these guys are the guys who are masters at it, who become like, within like 2 or 3 years, they can pretty much go to a club, go do day game, don't even have to they can go into a Bible study and they can walk out with a chick, because they are that savvy that they know women's nature and they know what they're doing. They can go and do those things. And then what they do is they go, ha, now I got it. Now I'm going to go back to that bitch that blew me out when I was in high school, and I'm going to go get her. And so it's what I call it old flame, new game, because you have that new game and you go, now I can go back and I can get Sally from the early days, and I'm gonna nail her and I'm gonna leave her, right? Like there's like some of this revenge fantasy, and I always tell guys, I said, it's not worth it to go and do that. It's your time is better spent developing new relationships than going back and jerking around with. And probably the chick, and this is why I say it's one of the iron rules of Tomasi: don't root through garbage once you've dragged the can to the curb, because what's in the garbage, what you left behind, is not what it like now. It's certainly not what you think of her in terms of like 2008, and now it's 2018.
Right.
And so
it's probably
it's not the same thing, and it's time better spent. Like, don't go have these revenge fantasies. It's stupid. You're wasting your time to do.
And here's another thing, Rollo. A lot of guys get caught up, right? So they go back and they fuck the high school. They fuck the girl they had a crush on in high school. Then all of a sudden, her womanly wiles sort of cast that same spell over him, and he forgets all of his red pill conditioning, and he's right back to school.
Oh yeah, well that's another thing is because you go back to that blue pill idealism, and that's why people think. Okay, now let me clarify a few things here. One of the things is I get run up the flagpole for is like, well, you call guys purple pill and you don't let them say anything about it. I'm like, no, whenever I designate somebody, I say, that's really purple pill thinking. It's because guys get this red pill understanding and they still cling to that blue pill idealism, and they think that they can use their red pill awareness and their red pill lens and their understanding of women's nature and intersexual dynamics, all of that stuff that they now know, they go and they take that and they try to go back to their blue pill idealism and make that Disney dream come true. And what that represents to me is the purple pill, because they're still clinging to that old blue pill idealism that they should have killed off when they unplugged and became more red pill.
Right.
What's that to me is that it's like a security blanket, right? It's like their stuffed animal that they don't want to let go. But like they can go to the clubs and pick up chicks all day long, and then they go, yeah, now I can finally go back and get Sally. But Sally from back in 2000 or whatever, she's the one that represents your blue pill self. So your blue pill self was disappointed and rejected and blown out back then. Your red pill self says, I could go back and do that. Well, why is it saying that? Because you're still clinging to that your blue pill ideals.
Good stuff, man. I'm going to shout out a couple of quick super chats here quickly. There are some questions in the super chat. We're going to get to those super chat questions in a second. We've got guys waiting in the queue. Area code.
I do want to talk about Robin Korth too.
Absolutely. Big thanks goes out to Dooley Godot, says just another with the $5 tuition. He's with the $5 tuition. Super chat, he says,
kind of tuition, yeah.
You two have taught me a ton on how to interact with my wife, and it made my marriage so much better. He is also TSR Tower's newest mod because he is a TSR Towers member, so I appreciate him for that. Will S with the $5 super chat says, thanks again for the advice. This is Will from area code 904. Paul Godden with the $2 super chat says, do you smash before you dash, though? The answer to that is yes. That is a very stupid question. Thanks for the super chat, though. Nonstop Dre with the $5 super chat says, love all your content and appreciate all the wisdom. I'm happy I've come across you guys at 21. After I got out of the military, I'm 23 and in college now. Absolutely. Yeah. Grovelite with the $5 super chat says, I will say this, because every man in monk mode has to unplug from it. Pornography, it keeps you blue pill and keeping you in the anger and depression. Truer words never spoken. Boy, these super chats are coming in fast and furious. I've got a question here about a couple of other questions, but I want to get to our callers here because a lot of them have been waiting for a while. Let's go to area code 347. Area code 347. You're on live with Donovan and Rollo, and you go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I'm calling here not with a question. I'm calling in with basically to share my experience about the red pill. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead. Just try to let's use a little bit of brevity here because we do have
the elevator speech.
Yeah, the elevator pitch. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, long story short is I discovered the red pill. Right now I'm in between my I can't believe women are like this and the acceptance stage. That's where I am at right now. I'm calling to share my experience because on the weekends I drive for Uber and I have over 5,000 rides in 3 years for Uber just doing it on the weekend.
You must hear some shit, dude. This goes back to exactly what your co-host said, is that discover the red pill, it's rejection. You think that these guys, they're doing it for money, they're doing it for fame, or they're just lying to you, right? It's not a lie. I've witnessed so many women, so many experiences, and pretty much everything that you guys said came true. I've seen the I'm gonna fuck the good guy, and I'm gonna marry I'm gonna fuck the bad guy and I'm gonna marry the good guy thing. I've had stories of me picking up girls literally saying they're just gonna party until they're 30 and then they're gonna get married. I've picked up women. It's 35 now.
Literally wait, what did you say?
I said it's 35 now. Yeah.
Well, for her it was 30. It was a girl I picked up in the middle of Manhattan. She was literally talking on the phone and she said, please don't judge. She was literally telling her friends thanks for not judging her for having the one night stand before, and she literally said she's trying to get it out of her system until she's 30.
They never do.
I've met other girls I've met literally other girls that literally they just literally a blonde girl. I remember her. I picked her up in Brooklyn. I dropped her off in Manhattan. She called up her friend and she's literally leaving this good guy. She was like, he's so nice. I can't believe what's wrong with me. I'm leaving him to go fuck my ex who abused me. She literally said that. I am not lying. I swear on my life.
Listen, and thanks for the call, area code 347. Yeah, listen, you don't have to convince us. Like a lot of guys who probably are watching this for the first time, they're probably kind of shocked. Dude, that isn't shocking. Like that's how it is. I've been not the
You
abusive.
know, let me explain something to you here really quickly, because I have guys that I talk to, or like guys who are part of my community anyways, who actually drive for Uber. And I will never like goof on a guy who drives for Uber, because you guys are in a position where you see so much shit, where you see so much and you see women like when, and I know guys right here in Reno who do it. And if you, especially if you're in Vegas, especially if you're in a gambling city or something, and people are there to party all the time,
Dude,
and they're there to drink and everything. Yeah,
their souls, man.
Oh man. And so like these guys, I think at some stage, some guy who was a former Uber driver, if it hasn't happened already, it probably has. Somebody's going to write a really kick-ass book about like Uber driver confessions or something like that, and it's going to be a movie, and people are going to make $1 million. Get on top of that. I just gave you a key to $1 million business right there.
Not only that, the reason why Uber drivers and taxi cab drivers, and I'm seeing in the chat, waiters, waitresses, etc., is because the people that you serve, the people that you interact with, they think that you're never going to see them again, and chances are you probably won't. But I always tell guys this is interesting that we're having this conversation, and we're going to go to the next caller after this. If there's any doubt in your mind as to whether or not the red pill really is the truth, you can do one of two things, or you can do both. Go to 2X Chromosomes subreddit, or you can be a taxi cab or an Uber driver. You will see and hear constant confirmation of red pill truth all the time, every day. 914-205-5356. I believe this is Thomas who is on the line with us. Thomas Muncier, I think your name is. You're on Live with Donovan and Rollo. Go ahead.
Yeah. Am I on the show?
You were on the show.
You are.
Well, hi, Rollo and Donovan. I got I'm calling from Belgium, so bear with me with my English. But,
okay.
So it's like 3 years ago, I got into the red pill and dating, and I've been red pilled since for 3 years. I didn't really have a problem with the depression and so forth from red pill rage. Because I actually took action and went out during day game instead of raging about it. And what I want to talk about is that about my red pill transformation. I've noticed some girlfriends saying that I've changed. Some people say that I've changed. I can't really put my finger on it, what it is. That they see that has changed from possibly my blue pill to red pill. And the other question is, I've had plenty of dates from my day game experience. I don't hate women, or I actually find them quite pleasant. But what I noticed is I've been on quite some dates with rather masculine women, and it's a bit of a masculine demeanor. And I never can seem to vibe pleasantly with them. I talk to these women on a date. It feels like the underlying vibe is two rams standing head to head with each other. And it's it cannot work. And is there a solution for it? Do you have to be hyper masculine to flip the role of her to get into feminine? Or is it just something you cannot do about it when you leave the scene, basically? And why is that? How do they come in such conditioning, these women, to have these rather masculine traits?
Yeah, I'll actually take the first crack at this one. And thanks for the question, Thomas. Thanks for holding on for so long. The answer is B, right? So his question was, when you meet a woman and she has masculine energy, do you A, try to overcome that masculinity with more masculinity, or do you B, just throw your hands up and just forget it? It really depends on the woman, okay? When I lived in Vegas, some of the most initially masculine women that I would pick up or hit on are the corporate types, right? They come to Vegas either for a conference or some sort of convention or whatever the case may be. They're at Caesar, they're at the hotel bar, they're at Caesar's Palace, they're at the Aria, they're at the Four Queens, whatever, and they're sipping their cocktail, their Cosmopolitan or whatever. They've got their attaché, their pantsuit on, and I just walk right up to them. Hi, I'm Donovan. Well, hi, I'm busy. Oh, well, that's a funny name. Do you have a last name? And you kind of charm them. it's unbelievable how quickly they soften up,
Mhm.
right? But if you walk up on a woman and you overcome a shit test, but she keeps shit testing you and you keep feeling that masculine energy, you need to leave her alone. So I said all that to say this. If you meet a woman who responds to your masculinity with more masculinity, you do not need to deal with that woman. Every woman on some level is going to have a masculine energy because that's the world that we live in. At first, try to overcome it. Well, I'm busy. Well, that's a funny name. Do you have a last name, or how about a hotel room key number, whatever the case may be? Ha 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 ha. Have a seat. Well, then you know that was probably just a slut shield, or a lot of women have a problem differentiating real life from the boardroom. But again, if you get women who respond to masculinity with more masculinity, you need to leave that alone. What are your thoughts, Roland?
Slut shield, man. I love that one. No, well, because it's bitch shield, but I think slut shield actually works a little better.
Absolutely. And those girls will suck the color.
Yeah.
Dick, man.
All right. Okay. So there's a couple things here. First off is why you're dealing it, or what you're dealing with, like how do you deal with it, and then why you're dealing with it. So what you're dealing with right now is women today, particularly in Western cultures. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be the United States. It could be in any westernized country. Women today expect men to be beta. They expect you to be deferential, I think is the best way to call it. They are expecting you to man down. They're expecting you to respect their authority. Just I've just been writing some well, I got a second essay coming up, but if you go and you look at my blog right now, my most recent essay is about respect, and it's the difference between how men and women approach respect. Just like I always say, men and women have different approaches to love. Men and women also have different approaches to respect.
Right.
Now, here's the thing: is for women just are, and men must become. Okay. So you have to be something more as a man. You have a burden of performance. If you're to be respectable, what it constitutes respectability, right? What is it that makes you respectable as a man? Well, it's the things that you've done. It's who you are, how you've, overcome adversity, how you've built this, how you've done that. Like all the things that it's like your life's work kind of thing, right? It's at the end of the day, it's not about the accolades. It's about, your body of work. Well, what's your body of work say about you? That is what women respect. That's what other men respect about you. So when I say burden of performance, that's what I mean. For women, respect is just like granted. It's just because I'm a woman, I just am naturally deserving of respect. And I would say that if you pose that to most guys, they'll go, yeah, you should respect women. That whole thing, because there's this default respect. And that's what I mean. When women just are, men must become. Well, here's the thing: is when you deal with a woman who is a quote unquote alpha female, which is a whole nother show I could talk to you about. But when a quote unquote, ballsy, bossy, bitchy alpha female is sort of trying to try to posture on you, like post up on you, right? She's doing that because, first of all, she expects you to be a beta. She expects you not to, because for the most part, that's what those guys are doing. 80%, 85% of guys these days are blue pill and they're betas. And that's what she's come to expect, because if she just, puffs herself up, nobody's going to challenge her. So when that one guy comes around who actually does, then it's game on. So most guys would just say, fuck, who wants to deal with that crap? And you know what? They're right. And what happens is most of those bossy, bitchy, and brassy women end up, 36, 38 years old, unmarried, and they got their great career, but that's all they have. And if they have a great career at all, but so that's what so here's the thing, and just to tie this into respect, is that, so she's a woman, so she's automatically deserving of respect, but she's also a man because she's decided she wants to be an alpha male. There's no such thing as an alpha female. There's women who pretend to be alpha males, and that's what she's doing. So as a masculinized woman, she also expects that she's going to be deserving of respect, not just for having a vagina, but also for having done things like a male, like having a burden of performance. Like, oh, well, I put a band, well, it could be a band, but I put a brand together. I'm the CEO for this company. I'm a doctor. I'm a lawyer. I've seen just recently on Twitter, women who were airing out their dirty laundry about their habits on Bumble. And these are women who are doctors. They have the MDA like attached to their profile. And so, hey, great, you earned the degree. Great, go ahead. That's fine. I think anybody who does that should be able to do that. But they're like, well, I'm dating these guys and there's just nobody that's worth a shit, right? There's like, these guys don't recognize me for being the alpha female that I am, and they don't recognize my doctorate. They don't see the MGA at the end of my name, and they're really upset but here's the thing. Men aren't looking for that. They're not looking for your brassiness. They're looking to see, are you hot and are you available? Those are the first two things that men care about when they see you. Once you get past that, well, anything else is just gravy after that.
Oh,
wait, but you have to have those
$15 a year. Awesome. Now I don't have to spend money on you. Can be the
you're hot and you're a doctor. All right, cool. No problem. But if you've got to be hot, you've got to be available. Those are the two things. And so when women start mixing in with this, actually is a really good dovetail into Robin Korth. When women start mixing in their credentials and their academia or whatever, they mix their credentials in with their sexual market value, it is a recipe for disaster for that woman, because she thinks because she is an alpha female, or she has a doctorate, or she did this, or she's done these things, that should in some way add to her sex appeal, because she's been masculinized. Her impression of how the game works is, well, if men are respected for these things, and if men are attractive because they got their doctorate, if men are attractive because they make a lot of money, if men are attracted for these things, that if those are, then I must be too, because I have all those things as well. No, you have to be hot and available. Okay, those are the two prime requisites before you move on to anything else. But they don't want to do that, because what they do is they mix and then I have a great essay on this called Separating Values. This is exactly what Robin Korth did. She mixes in her sense of self, in her own identity. She mixes all of the things that she's done as an alpha female into her own self-worth. So what she doesn't do, and what these women don't do, is they can't separate their sexual market value from their personal worth. Right? They say, well, I'm such a nice person, and I'm such a great this, and I'm such a great that, and I make a lot of money, and I've got a degree, and I've got all this great stuff. Okay, are you hot? Are you available? That's
exactly it. But then when you flip it on its head, if you had a sexually unattractive man who says, well, I have degrees, I am a nice guy, I have a spark personality, what's the woman going to ask him? Well, and again, she's not going to say it out loud, but her actions would lead you, her actions will tell you, are you hot? And are you available? That's what it comes down to. Women expect us to apply the same standard to them that they would never apply to men. That's all there is to it.
Well, as far as the alpha female thing, and I'll just give you the really quick speech in this, is that a lot of women like to say that they are alpha females. Like, I'm an alpha female. It's like, well, no, what you are is you are aping the behaviors and aping the mindsets of an alpha male, and you just happen to be female. You happen to have a vagina, and you act the part very well. From an evolutionary, from a strictly scientific, evo bio, evo psych perspective, you are not an alpha female. The hottest chick, Renee Summerfield. I'm trying to think of the hottest chick I can think of. The hottest bikini. Here's the thing. All those chicks that are in the videos for Dan Blitzerian, those chicks are alpha females, right? Because they're hot and they're available, and they are at a level that most guys can't even dream of. And because they are alpha females within their own sex. That is what makes them an alpha female, and what makes an alpha male an alpha male is what makes a male an alpha. And so what women do is they take that, and because they've been masculinized for so long, they take those requisites and they apply a male burden of performance on themselves. They think they measure up to it, and therefore they should be respected as an alpha. When they call it female because they happen to have a vagina, but they're really, what they've done is they've created an identity for themselves that is based on an alpha male archetype. So the real truth is, like, hot chicks, the bikini models, the 8s and the 9s and the 10s, those girls, those are actually the alpha females. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Big thanks to Carl Bennington with the $2 super chat. He asks, what's your opinion on Todd Valentine? Don't have an opinion. Pickup artist. It is what it is.
I like Todd. I used to anyways. I think he's kind of changed his story. He's a good dude. He used to be with RSD. I don't like what RSD did to him. And I think that, since he's got a baby on I think the baby's already here. Since he got a baby, and I think he got married, his tune has changed. So I don't know. I don't even know what he's doing these days. He's not the same dude.
Well, hopefully not. Hopefully not. Jay Mance with the $2 super chat says, you guys are perfect. Thanks, fellas. Up next in the phone queue, area code 504-971-232-702-336, 973-202-215. And then looks like MT2 is in the queue. But before we get to that, Chris Locks or Lokes with the $10 super chat asks a very important question. He says, can you explain a bit about how not to discuss red pill awareness with women? I live in an area where many women are aware of the manosphere and often use these things against me in discussions. Well, your first mistake, Chris, is engaging in these discussions, right? Never, ever engage in manosphere-related or red pill-related discussions with women because they do not think logically. They are going to answer you with emotion. I actually have a blog post that I'm getting ready to release here, probably in a couple of hours. That's going to highlight that. My last point on this is that men with red pill awareness, when they first find the red pill, they share it with their wives and girlfriends. The guys tell me all the time, Donovan, my wife, my girlfriend loves what you talk about. She agrees. She's got to be feminine. She's got to be this. She's got to be that. And I always tell them, be very careful about sharing your red pill awareness with your woman, because while she might like the fact that you are red pill aware, if you show her how the sausage is made, if you show her the prestige of the magic trick, she's not going to, I don't want to say she's not going to respect you as much, but she knows how the sausage is made. Now she's going to start to ask herself, well, wait a minute, he just passed my shit test. I think that's what I did. Did he pass that shit test because that's really who he is? Or is it because he did, or is it because of something Donovan said, or what he read in Irrational Male? Women don't want to know how the sausage is made. They just want to eat the sausage. Do not deprive a woman don't deprive a woman of your mysteriousness. Don't deprive her of your mystique. Women like to be mystified. They like not knowing how the sausage is made. And if you spoil that for them, I can promise you it can come back to bite you in the ass. What are your thoughts?
I like listening to you because it saves me a lot of time because you're probably going to say most of the stuff I am. No, I was going to say is that women want a guy who just gets it.
There you go.
And if it has to be, and that's in book number 1 as well, as a chapter called Just Get It. And the reason, like, guys always said to me, like, what, do I have to be a mind reader for these girls? Like, yeah, you do. You actually have to be a mind reader. No,
yeah, right.
But here's the thing is that women want guys who understand the nature of women and they understand how to play with them. They don't, like, women don't want to be told that they're playing a game. They just want you to play the game.
Oh, dude, 100%.
And this is the hardest thing to, like, tell guys, because it's easier if I write this out in an essay or something. But I always tell guys this: you need to play with her and play with her.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, play with her, capitals, with her. Okay.
With her.
Yes. So you have to understand the game, and you have to understand the underlying nature of what you're doing. And that's the thing that's very intriguing, and that's very fun for women. Never disappoint a woman in allowing her to try to figure you out with her female intuition. I've said this a million times, is that there's nothing that is more satisfying to a woman than to believe that she has figured out a guy based on her mythological feminine intuition. Yeah. Like, she's figured you out because she knows she has some sort of magical, woo, I've got this power, right? We call that female intuition. Really what female intuition is that women have a better capacity for communication. Yeah, they have better communication, and this is scientific. I can prove this scientifically. Just the way that women's brains are wired, that women communicate covertly and men communicate overtly. Right. And most guys don't have the patience to do that, and they don't want to do that. They would rather just say, you come over to my way of thinking, you come over and talk the way I want to talk, you come over here and you play in my playground here, and this is how we're going to explain it. And sometimes women will go and do that. But in a feminine primary society, women want men who just get it. They would much rather have a guy who is like, where you kind of, you say the words and you look at each other and you're like, and you're like, yeah, like, I get it, right? Oh, you get it. And so there's that self-satisfaction that goes along with that, because just like you were saying before, you never tell women about the red pill. Guys ask me all the time. I say, Rollo, hasn't your wife read The Rational Male? Doesn't she know all your tricks?
Yes.
That's actually a law of power. never teach your students all of your tricks.
Right.
Never give. Never. I've said this also as well, is that women say they want the truth, but they never want full disclosure.
Oh wow, that's a good way.
Yes, because they they'll say, I want to know what what was it? Open communication solves everything. Open communication. It's like, no, it's not that you communicate. It's what you are communicating and how you are communicating. Everybody, there's a million beta males right out my front door right here who would tell you exactly the same thing. Well, the key to a healthy relationship is open communication.
Communication is the key.
And they're all divorced 3 times, and they have no clue. Right. Yeah. And so, because that sounds like something that's right to say, and guys take that to heart. And so, as a result of that, they put all their cards on the table all the time because they believe erroneously, and this is what you were saying just a minute ago, Donovan, is that you never appeal to a woman's reason.
That's right.
Because women prioritize emotion before they prioritize reason.
And they can't help it. Even if they wanted to prioritize reason before emotion, they cannot do it.
Mm-hmm. And this is actually, I'm halfway serious when I say this. I would really like to write a book based on this series of posts that I've written about instinct, emotion, and reason, and how women and maybe 5. Gosh, don't get me started. Instinct is where most human beings start. When something comes into our awareness, our peripheral awareness, if somebody threw a ball at you right now, you'd probably,
sure.
So there's that instinctual awareness. There's parts of our, like, we're born with this instinctual understanding that we have an innate mental firmware. Then we interpret things emotionally. Like, how did this information that's coming in from the stimulus, how did this affect me emotionally, how I feel about that, right? And then there's reason, and reason is the slowest of all of these interpretive processes because it takes time to learn those things to become reasonable. You have to learn how to think, and then once you learn how to think, like, what do you think about this information, right? So it's a lot slower. But what happens is women prioritize their interpretive processes as instinct. Everybody does. Everybody starts with instinct.
Sure.
Then they do emotion, and then they do reason. And they think about, what logically, what should I be doing, right? If they get to that point. Men are instinct, reason, and then emotion. And this is what frustrates women so much, because they say, well, men they're not emotionally available, or they're not in touch with their feminine side, or they're not in touch with they need to let it out and cry and all. And why is that? Why does that seem like a good idea to women? Because it would make them like women. Because men naturally want to use reason first, and then they'll go, well, how did this make me feel? Whereas women are like, how did this make me feel? And then they go, oh, well, what can I do with this information, right? So there's a mismatch, I think. But really since the sexual revolution, we have raised kids, we've raised our boys to be defective girls. And in doing so, we try to flip that. We try to say, okay, boys, you should think like a girl, because that's the right way to think about things and to interpret information from the outside world. So we want you to tell us how you feel. And what happens is, after generations and after guys become adults, remember I talked about betas and waiting, when those guys become adults, they hang on to that, and they think that being emotional is actually better for them, because they think that women will relate to that. They'll like them and they'll love them more because they're more like women, because they prioritize emotion first. And the thing is that is like the absolutely backwards ass way to relate with women. So when you're talking about, how come I can't explain red pill awareness to my girlfriends? Because you're using reason, and women they don't prioritize reason first. They prioritize emotion. So it's, how does that make them feel? So when you say women are like this, and here's what the red pill says about your nature, and this is kind of unflattering, but I'm going to tell you about it. They're not going to go, oh, you know what? I've never thought about that. Let me rationally, reasonably, logically, understand this a little bit better. No, they fly off the handle like, I can't believe you're a misogynist and you think of all these things. And what's the matter with you? And fuck that Rollo Tomasi guy. That's where they go with it.
Every once in a while, because Devin and I will be watching television, movie, whatever the case may be, and I just can't keep my mouth closed. Like, it's just red pill all the time. Even she will push back on some stuff. And I don't even argue with them. I'm like, Devin, you're a woman. Of course you're going to see it that way. And she just turns like a brilliant shade of it. Just like, God damn it, you're fucking right. But fuck you.
Well, that's why those shows, and I know you watch these too. That's why The Bachelorette and The Bachelor and all that other crap. That's why it appeals, because it triggers it feeds women in the way that they want to be fed, which is instinct, emotion, and if they ever even get to reason. I was watching the Miss Universe pageant with my daughter. My daughter's a pageant girl, as everybody knows.
Oh yeah, that's
and so I was watching that, and like the tears start coming, and I'm like, what the fuck is there to cry about? You know,
like, dude.
But that's been, and so I got to stop myself, and I go, okay, you know, it's
woman,
because that's where it starts. And then maybe I'll go, well, that girl won, or that girl did better than the other one because of X, Y, and Z. Then she'll go, oh yeah, you know, you're right about that. And then so we'll start talking about, like, I'm like a coach all of a sudden, like saying, like, here's why she won, here's why she didn't win. But prior to that, it's, oh, I can't believe this is so great.
By the way, Roland doesn't need to write the mythical book 5, The Irrational Female. If you want to watch something that would be the equivalent to The Irrational Female, just tune into Bravo, TLC, Oprah Winfrey, The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, and you'll no longer have to.
It's not that women can't be rational. It's just that their natural priority is to be emotional first.
You, Rolo.
And then they get to
you. Check this out. Mm-hmm. Women can absolutely be rational, but here's the thing. Women can be surprisingly rational, reasonable, and pragmatic after they hit the wall. Back when they're young and partying and fucking the guy at the foam cannon party in Cancun, or Kevin in sales, whatever the case may be, they can be governed by their emotions because they can afford to be. But when you're 32 with 2 kids and no man, all of a sudden you'd be surprised at how pragmatic all of a sudden and how reasonable and rational she can be now that she has to be. Women prioritize rationalism or rational thought when they are forced to. When they don't have to, when they have time and youth on their side, they don't need to. This is why they don't. Big shout out to Sam Bada, who is in the chat, the voice of the rational male. Let us hit some of these. We have a question from Martin Bell Gaming, but I'm going to get to that in a little bit. Let's get to the phone lines. Let's go to area code 504. Wow, you calling from Baton Rouge, 504?
No, sir. Calling from NOLA.
Oh, no.
There it is.
There we go. Good stuff, man. What's on your mind?
Hey, look, man, y'all hitting on a lot of good topics, but I want to be real quick because I know these people are waiting. So just to comment a little bit on Rolo's comments about the alpha females and all this nonsense. There's a lot of guys out there blowing a lot of smoke up these girls' asses and just continuing to inflate their already inflated ego. Now, that's not a question. I have a theory because I feel like that contributes to the already inflated egos out there, and it's degrading the dating marketplace, really. But anyway, quickly get to my question, and I'm going to read this out. This is something I wrote so I can kind of keep my thoughts together.
Okay.
In a world where girls are raised without a real masculine example and have never seen the values/struggles of a man, how do you handle when life/relationship the struggles become frustrating, and anger and some emotional stability from you shows up into your relationship? How do you keep masculine frame, not necessarily frame, but how do you keep your emotions together and not look weak in the midst of frustration and anger when living with a woman? She's,
I'll give the short answer first here. Listen, I'll give the short answer first. Number one,
the frustration tends to snowball, as y'all know, after showing you care too much and then trying to fix things too much. So go ahead and elaborate on that.
Yeah, to me, that is either learned or it's practiced. Because Devin's not the first woman I've lived with. I've lived with 2 women. I've lived with my ex-wife. I had absolutely no frame, no emotional control, whatever the case may be, but I have that now. And it just takes practice. You have to understand, and the thing is this, what you have to understand this, caller, women are going to try you, women are going to piss you off, women are going to frustrate you, but you have to become proficient at sort of never letting them see you sweat. And the reason why this is important is because women need to rely on you emotionally. If they see that you cannot handle your emotions, then they can't trust you with theirs, right? If you can't handle their emotional, if you can't handle their emotional shenanigans, what happens when the shit hits the fan out in the real world? So if you show her that she can count on your perceived stoicism, then that causes her to trust you a little bit more. Roller, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay. Well, the first thing is remember what I said about cutting yourself off from your old blue pill idealistic self and how to, you have to kill the beta kind of thing. Well, what happens is when you get these guys who go red pill and then suddenly they find themselves in a really good position, right? Maybe they've got their dream girl, their quote unquote dream girl, and they get into a relationship with her. Maybe they move in with her or whatever. And then the most common story I get from guys is she's not having sex with me anymore, Rolo, or or how do I get the frame back? I had frame. And now it's gone. Right now, now she's the one that's in controlling this whole thing because he made a series of mistakes. Well, the reason that he made those mistakes is because he never really cut himself off from that old blue pill self. So what you see happen is you get guys who will get into a difficult position with a woman in unfamiliar territory and not know what to do or how to react in a red pill paradigm, or like what is the red pill response to this? And sometimes, when you're learning, when it's not instinctual, when it's not internalized, you still have to go through a period where like Donovan was saying, you got to learn these things, and you have to progress through those things so that they become like second nature to you. So that when those shit tests arrive, or maybe you're fighting with her for whatever reason, that you don't backslide, that you don't go back to that blue. And like I was saying before, when guys go red pill and suddenly the girls that they knew before are calling them misogynist, or you're a jerk, or something's changed about you, or why are you trying to be somebody you're not, or you have that kind of pushback. Your natural instinct is to go back to the blue pill and go, oh man, I don't want them to not like me. I want them to like me. So I'm going to try to do all the things that will get that person to like me. And if that means crying, if that means getting on your knees, if that means, in some way supplicating or deferring to that woman because you think that that's going to get, or apologizing, getting to that point where you're going to go back to normal. Guess what? You're not going anywhere near normal if you go back to something that she's not expecting you to go back to. Because if you built your relationship on you being like more alpha or being red pill aware, and suddenly you start acting beta, she will get that much more upset with you, because what that does is it goes against what I call women's existential fear. Women's existential fear is to get involved with a guy who presents himself as an alpha. This is why women hate game, by the way. And presents himself as an alpha, presents himself as having frame, presents himself in all of these ways that makes him very attractive. Maybe, he's got to be good looking, yes, okay, but like let's say he's got social dominance, he's got pre-selection, he's got social proof, he's got all this stuff. And if it turns out that all that is bullshit, that pisses women off more than anything else in a lifetime, because the existential evolved fear that is part of women's mental firmware is getting into a position where she breeds with that guy and then later discovers that he is beta. And now she's stuck with him. She's stuck with his babies. She might even be killed, because back in our evolutionary past, if a woman made a bad reproductive choice, that was a matter of life or death. That subconscious, I could get killed if I'm with this guy, or I could, this guy's weak. So if he's weak, that means the predators can eat me and my kids and him. Holy shit, he's not an alpha. He's actually a beta.
Now I'm in trouble.
Now I'm in trouble. That's what the hindbrain is thinking at that point. And that's why women lose their shit when you appear to have frame, you appear to be in control, and then suddenly you go, oh, it's okay. And you get into the fetal position.
Right to be, though, right? Because think of it this way. I think of what you just said, and 971, we're coming to you here in just a second. I got to shout out a $50 super chat. That is the equivalent. What you just described, a man with game, faking an alpha attitude and alpha presence, that is the equivalent of a woman wearing full body Spanx, booty pads, stuff on her bra, right? You want to fuck her, you get her naked, and well, wait a minute, you're a fucking slot box, you got pancake tits and your ass is hanging down to your knees. Like, that's what it is. Women value these alpha traits and alpha characteristics. Men value youth and beauty. And when you appear, man or a woman, when you appear to be literally the opposite of what you really are, this is why women get upset. This is why women shit test. And I say this all the time, Rolo. Girls have the internet too. You don't think they know about Todd Valentine? You don't think they know about Paul Janka, Mystery Method, Neil Strauss? Girls have the internet too. So when you walk up to her and hit her with a pickup line, well, are you from Tennessee because you're the only 10 I see, or some crazy shit like that, they're going to shoot you down like a fucking dog in the wilderness because they know you're running, quote, game. Girls want to know that you are who you present yourself to be. This is why they shit test. So many guys say, women shit test because of hypergamy. No, women shit test because they don't want to get tricked into fucking a loser. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, because in the back of their heads, because in our evolutionary past, that you want to know why women are hypergamous is because it's a life or death choice to their hindbrains. We're still the same humans that we used to be way back, 100,000 years ago. But here we are on the internet, and we're in this sexual marketplace. We're still dealing with our evolved like physiques. Like one of the reasons why everybody's so damn overweight right now is because what used to be an advantage to a guy or to a human being was eating sugary foods and because that was an instant energy rush. Those kinds of things like that, then that's the hunger side of things. But we're still dealing with that here, that overeating or being fat here as a result of something that was beneficial to us back in our ancestral past. Same thing applies to sexuality. And that's where we're at right now. So when a woman is tricked, like I was on Pat Campbell's show, and we were talking about this legislation that they are trying to pass in Australia right now about how if a guy lies and it gets a woman into bed based on false pretenses, that if later she finds out that guy is not actually an attorney and he's actually a sandwich artist at Subway or something like that after the fact, he can be held accountable and guilty for having raped her because she only had, and of course women hate this because it sort of gives up their own game, right? They're only interested, they're only, because it's opportunism. You don't think people give me grief about, oh, you think that women are opportunistic about love. Yes. And we're going to legislate that too. In fact, they're so opportunistic about it that they will call a guy a rapist for having lied about himself or lied about his status or lied about his pre-selection.
Breath, Rolo, when a guy complains, oh my God, she tricked me, I thought she was a virtuous woman, you know what they say? You should have known. Women don't even trick you, they flat out lie to you about who and what they are, man. Big thanks goes out to Paul Godin with the $50 super chat. Says, had our ship's holiday party last night, and I was amazed at how much more I noticed about people after listening to you for a couple of months. I paid particular attention to slut tells and who was leading whom as people were walking around. Big thanks for that.
Now you know what I do for a living. Like if I'm at a promo, that's exactly what I do the whole time I'm there.
YOLO with the 55 NOK, that's roughly $6.08 according to Google whatever. He says, hi, Rolo, can we trust women in jobs where they need to be logical and reasonable, like in math, physics, and philosophy? All smart people I know are men.
Is men. Well, okay, here's the thing. When I talk about how women prioritize emotion, I just said, I also sort of put a caveat on there as well, saying that women can be reasonable, just like men can be emotional. We've just been talking about this. Like when I talk about how little kids, like little 5-year-old boys, are being taught to be defective little girls, what are they teaching? Well, they're trying to teach boys to repress that innate natural instinct in themselves to act like little boys, right? To go out and run around on the playground. But like, because we have more female teachers teaching these boys, if those little boys don't learn like little girls, or if they don't act in a feminine, correct way, we go and we drug them. We give them Adderall, we give them Ritalin, and we say, Johnny, you're going to be punished until you can come over here and learn like the rest of the class. Well, the rest of the class is learning like a little girl, right? And so what that's teaching little Johnny is to repress his natural male instinct, his natural maleness, and to become more like a female, because it's more advantageous to become a female, okay? So here's the deal, is just because women are born one way, or even boys are born one way, it doesn't mean that they can't learn. So when I talk about like innate mental firmware, like evolved mental firmware, what I talk about is like hypergamy, for example, is part of our women's innate mental firmware. Unlimited access to unlimited sexuality is part of men's innate mating strategy. But we teach those guys to repress that, to push that down, because there are some very antisocial repercussions that happen if a guy doesn't do something like that. So we can teach people to repress that natural firmware and to think in different ways. We do that with martial arts, actually. When it's not in our nature to want to put our face in front of somebody's fist. But if we learn and we condition ourselves to learn martial arts, then we can at least stand up for ourselves. And we're not like, doing all this instinctual self-defense kind of stuff. And we actually know what we're doing, we have a confidence in what we're doing, because we have learned to repress that innate part of us and use something that is a learned part of us. So women can learn to be more rational, to be more reasonable. And there's a lot of women that do actually do that, but it doesn't mean that their innate process isn't emotion and then reason. They just have to switch those out. Like I said before, we're teaching boys to switch out reason for emotion. We can also do the same thing for women if that's what they choose to do. So you can teach a woman to act more rational and reasonable, but their innate proclivity, I guess, is really to be more emotional.
I have a quick answer to that question, to what you guys are seeing on the screen. The answer to me is no, not consistently anyway. Listen, man, there are some brilliant women out here. There are exceptions to the rule. Margaret Thatcher, Madame Curie, et cetera, et cetera. Today, there are women capable of doing great things with their minds, but here's why I don't trust them on a consistent basis, is because a woman's body and brain are never chemically identical from one day to the next, man. And this is because of their menstrual ovulatory cycle. Their mindset and body on day 3 of their cycle is miles away from day 27 and vice versa. She's not going to think the same way on day 15 as she is on day number 20. That's just how it is. So you have a lot of guys that say, oh, I don't want to work with women. Okay, true enough, all the drama they bring and everything like that. But if you want to really get scientific with it, it's a woman's body. A woman's body chemistry simply will not allow her to be or to feel anything consistently. Women, and I say this all the time, women are weird and wonderful and fantastic and fucked up all at the same time, all the time. Depending upon the day, it really depends upon which one you're going to see and feel the most. So you put a woman in a position of power, she might be fine today, she'll be fucked up the next, right? She might love you on Tuesday and want to jab you, in the eyeball with an ice pick on Thursday. In terms of math and physics and philosophy, those are facts. Those are not governed by emotions or anything. Those are facts. Okay, so she's on her period. That doesn't mean she's not going to think that, I'm not a mathematician, but that doesn't mean that she's going to think that sine, cosine, and tangent are 3 different things. No, they are what they are. But again, I don't really, in terms of trust, I don't really trust. I don't trust a woman's judgment consistently. Women are capable of making good judgment and good decisions, but that's just to take your word, those aren't their proclivities, especially when they're in positions of power, because of course they are governed.
The other part of this is I don't know how familiar you are with Dr. Steven Pinker, but he wrote this book, The Myth of the Blanks, or The Blank State, which is modern denial of human nature, and we're still denying human nature. And in his research, if you've ever seen any of the videos by this guy, it's fantastic. But he goes through some of the innate gender differences between men and women. Men tend to be more interested in things. Women tend to be more interested in people. Our brain chemistry, our biochemistry is different. The way our brains are wired is different. Men tend to have better rational facilities. Women have better communicating skills. They're wired for communication. What's interesting is, like, if you look at the brain scans and you look how men's brains, like the synapses are connected, and you look how women's are, they complement each other perfectly. This is why I keep saying men and women are better together than they are apart. We are complements to each other, but we keep insisting on saying that, oh, we're just blank slate equals. Anything women can do, men can do too. And it's this fucking fantasy. But when we look at things like philosophy or anything that or mathematics is a good one. I forget the name of the guy who was the professor who got fired for saying that men have a natural proclivity for mathematics and women do not. That's why women when they go to college, they tend to prefer things in humanities, in communication. Was it 90% of women are like communications majors these days?
Yes.
So it's psychology, and you think I can't prove this? I can show you the connection connections between. I can even show you who those, like when women gravitate towards like nursing, or they gravitate towards like psychology or communication or social work or whatever, you can see that. And then what's interesting is they've got the stats that show you who these women end up marrying. And it's usually a guy who's like, a nurse is going to marry a guy who's like a firefighter or something like that. Or it's like, it is exactly what you would expect from conventional traditional gender roles. That's what people opt for.
By the way, the guy's name is Professor Lawrence Summers. Actually served as a Treasury Secretary under President Clinton. He formerly professor at Harvard. Got another question here from John Alba with the $5 super chat. He says, your thoughts on the critique that the red pill and the rational male relies too much on anecdotal evidence rather than studies and concrete data. This question answers itself. Okay. You say this all the time, Rollo. You cannot negotiate desire. Just because women say that men should like certain things doesn't mean that they do. Now, to bring that back to Mr. Alba's question, people like to refute what we talk about no matter what, right? But these same people, Mr. Alba, will tell you, well, listen, any study or statistic can be manipulated to say whatever you want. But then, of course, these detractors say, well, this relies too much on anecdotal evidence rather than concrete data. Anecdotal evidence, my friend, is concrete data. When you have millions of men all gathering in one area saying, you know what, I tried this and she did that, but when I did this, she said that, that is the concrete data. The red pill is not. Now, there are some philosophical ideas in terms of the red pill. Rollo, you hold a degree, I believe, in
I have a BFA and I have a BS in behavioral psychology.
Exactly. And that really, really helps you to sort of put in layman's terms what a lot
That's why I decided to double major, because I was seeing a lot of this stuff going on in my surroundings. Like if I'm honest, the reason that I started out as a minor in psychology and that it was only a few more classes to do, right? I did that because I wanted to be able to better understand my clients, because at that time I was an art director and I was doing, branding stuff, brand manager, art director. And I really didn't like dealing with the person. I wanted to understand my personalities better, just sort of give me an edge kind of thing.
Sure.
But at the same time, as a result of that, I started doing peer counseling with guys with the guys that nobody wanted to take, which were guys who are like somewhere between like 45 and 65 years old. And they would go there for free counseling and you're there to learn and all this other stuff. And that, at the same time I was doing that, I was also a mod at So Suave. And so I had sort of a fascination with the pickup artist community, because we're talking like 2002, right?
Yeah,
2001, 2002, 2003, around there. And so that was what really sort of gave me that fascination to do that. So here's my thing is and people will throw this at me. They'll say, well, you relies too much on anecdotal evidence. Okay, here's a couple things. The first one is that a lot of the stuff that we talk about in the red pill can only be done, or the only kind of research the field research can only be done through like personal experience and aggregating all of this intelligence, I guess. One of the best quotes that Nick Krauser ever gave me one time was, he says that the pickup artist community has done more to better understand intersexual dynamics and intersexual understanding of men and women in the last like 15 years than 100 years of sociology and 100 years of psychology have done, because those guys, the pickup artists, those guys in the in Project Hollywood or what, the Mystery Method, or the guys in the game, right? All those guys are technically doing experiments that most psychologists wouldn't touch,
of course,
because it's unethical for them to go and do those things, or they would think of it as unethical. So the thing is we're kind of in the red pill community, where ever since I'd say like around year 2000, right? We finally have the ability to aggregate all this information on a worldwide consortium where everybody can compare notes and everybody can say, this is what I see going on. I do actually use a lot of scientific stuff. Like one of the reasons I'm really fascinated by Alpha God, I was telling you about that, Hector Garcia. I love his work. I love Marty Hazelton. I quote her constantly.
Sure.
But people don't, but you don't quote anybody, but I quote her. I quote Stephen Gangstead. I quote David Buss. I've quoted Jeff Miller before too. Sure. I have used sites but see, nobody cares about those things, because what I talk about, like the greater concepts, the bigger concepts, are dots that I connect. Because I go places that these guys won't go. I will go and say, have you thought about this question here? Like, one of the reasons Jeff Miller hates my guts is because I will go and make the connections that he either can't or won't make. Same thing with Marty Hazelton. I love her to death. I think her research is like groundbreaking, but she always has this kind of like feminist chip on her shoulder, and she always has to prove her feminist street cred all the time. And so I'll say, well, from a red pill perspective, how are we going to make this work for guys? Another really quick example of this is Diana Fleischman, who is now married to Jeff Miller. She's a behavioral psychologist, and she's done these series of talks about how to behaviorally train your boyfriend. Right?
Jesus.
If she goes and does that, it's fantastic. People love it. She can write a book. She'll show up on Oprah. She'll,
but what Donovan Sharpe says,
Rollo Tomasi says exactly the same thing. I'm a misogynist son of a bitch. And so that's what I'm up against, is connecting the dots. I'm actually going places that these guys don't want. I know the research. I do these things. And then my final point is this: is of the many personal beliefs that you have, I don't know how old you are, but of the many personal beliefs that you have right now up to this point in your life, how many of those were influenced and set in stone as a result of you reading multiple independently studied, meta-analysis, peer-reviewed research to come to the conclusion that you've come to? How many of your personal beliefs are a result of, that kind of research?
Listen,
None.
why we know not to, this is why we know not to put our hand on the stove, because we burned our hand on the stove. We didn't read in a book that says, well, the filament gets hot in the stove. No, you burn your hand on the stove. So to end with this, the question answers itself. Detractors of the red pill are looking for reasons to detract. And so when they say, well, the rational male and guys like Donovan Sharpe, they rely too much on anecdotal evidence rather than studies and concrete data. Anecdotes is concrete data. Data, of course, can be made. Statistics and studies can be made to say whatever you want. So my answer to that is they're just looking for a reason to.
Well, does any of what I propose, and that's really what it is. That's why I keep referring back to the red pill as a praxology. It is it's a loose science. It's like, and you know what? If somebody came to me and said, "Hey, Rollo, everything you said about this is contradicted by this study right here," or whatever, and if I look into it and I go, you know what, that sounds pretty good, I will go back, erase that part, and we'll go on from there, because I can do that. I don't practice a religion. I practice a praxology, or I'm invested in a praxology, and I still buy pencils with erasers on them. Okay, so when I'm putting stuff together, the question I ask is this, and I'll just leave you with this one: is, does anything I say sound irrational? Does it sound like it doesn't make sense? Do the dots that I connect not actually connect? If you tell me no, they don't, here's why. Cool, let's have that debate. Let's talk about that. That's why I've always had an unmoderated comment thread on my forum. I've always been very open about it. I will debate anybody who wants to, as long as you come at me with an actual topic.
Oh God!
Debating whether or not Rollo Tomasi is the high priest cult leader of the manosphere is not a debate.
Just own it, dude. Just own it, dude. Just be like, you know what? I run a cult. I'm the fucking cult.
I know. I agree and amplify. Right?
Jesus Christ. Yes, exactly. Martin Bell Gaming, I apologize for missing your 10 British pounds super chat. He says, I am MGTOW, but I want to date again. I do not want marriage or common law, as I lose too many legal rights. Need to get back into shape. What do you recommend to become being better socially? I'll give you my answer first. And by the way, for the callers in the queue, it's going to tell you 30 seconds. You guys can stay in the queue. I can, when the timer goes off, whoever's in the queue now will stay in the queue. You don't have to worry about that.
I can go over too. So
okay, very good. How to become better socially? How do you learn how to swim? You go and you jump in the pool. You take swim lessons, or you start
in the shallow end.
There you start at the shallow end. How do you get strong? You go to the weight room. You can't squat 350 the first day. You have to start with 45 pounds. What you need to do, Martin, is you need to put yourself in social situations. Okay. Yes, you're going to stumble. Yes, you're going to fall. But you can't, just like Rollo said, you can't learn to become socially dominant by reading books about social dominance. It can start with that, but at some point there has to come a stage of application. You can read up on game all you want to. You can buy all of Donovan Sharpe's courses, and you can masturbate to the red pill. Eventually, you're going to have to bust the nut and get out there and do it. And I know that kind of sounds like sort of red pill porn, but that's what you have to do. So my number one, if you want to become socially better, get yourself into shape. You'd be surprised how much better socially you are when you know you're not a fat ass. That's number one. Number two, I would recommend, like I said, putting yourself in situations. Dude, go to singles meets. I say this all the time. Go to a cooking class. Take a dance class. Take a cooking class. Put yourself in situations where you are forced to interact with people, with persons of the opposite sex. You again, just like Tiger, I think his name was Tiger Tong Po in the movie Kickboxer, I think. In order to throw that shin kick with impunity, he had to kick that palm tree until he deadened the nerves to the point where he could kick it and not feel any pain. You have to deaden those nerves in terms of talking to people. You can't do that. You can't learn to throw that kick if you're not kicking that palm tree. So you have to put yourself in social situations, but it starts with changing your physique. If you change your physique, you change your life. Roll your thoughts.
There's a reason why we always start with the physical. The first is because people say, well, you'll look better. Yeah, well, you're not going to look better overnight. But the other thing is that by going and doing that, you are releasing endorphins in yourself and you're feeling a little bit better. You're doing something. You're actually taking some sort of control. I think people kind of lose sight whenever, like, say, Dr. Jordan Peterson says, go make your bed or go and put your shoulders back, all that kind of stuff. It's not the actual act of it. It's that you did something. It's that you're actually out there and you're doing something that not laying down. You're actually enforcing your will on the world in some way. So it's not the fact that you made your bed or you did your homework or something.
Right.
I would also say this. I would definitely say get to the gym. And get a program, get stuck on that, get addicted to going to the gym. And in the beginning, you should do that because it makes you feel good, and it's going to change your mind about yourself. And that's where I was going to go next. Is you need to give yourself permission to do that.
Yep.
Most guys are stuck in a way of thinking because most guys don't become like men because they don't give themselves permission to become men. And you have to change your mind about yourself.
Right.
And when I talk about mental point of origin, this is where it begins, is changing. You change your mind about yourself. And sometimes that's actually the toughest part, because you know that everybody around you, and we were saying this before, everybody around you expects you to be one way, and they want you to be predictable. And they want you to be they will say you're acting inauthentic, or you're not, you're trying to be you're a poser, right? You're trying to be somebody that you're not. They're going to say that because they want to keep you the way you are, because you're easier to understand if you are predictable.
Ooh.
You have to push past that and give yourself permission for that. The other thing I would say this is go to the gym. Also, like what Donovan was saying here is you probably need to develop new social networks.
There you go.
And I don't mean get on Facebook. What I mean is go out and do things. Like, do you have a hobby? Do you want to play music? I was talking about tribes the other day, and I was thinking about all the different tribes that I'm involved in. I mean,
Right.
the Manosphere is one, of course. I play in a band right now.
Right.
I have another tribe with the people that I work with, like for my day job. I've got a group of writers that are sort of a tribe. There's the church that I go to. That's kind of a tribe. And so, like, you have to look and see where you can, and don't do those things with the intent of, oh, I'm going to go against and be in this tribe. Do it because you really like it. Do it because there's some sort of intrinsic reward for it. And let me add this one last thing here. If you really want to up your game, take a class in improvisational theater.
Oh, I've said that before. I do take an improv class, because
take an improv class.
They will sharpen up your social skills, and guess what? You will meet women.
Yeah.
They are forced to have to talk to you, and you have to talk to them and think on the fly. It's called improvisation.
Yes, that is the best way. The best way to improve your game, and to do so and it's fun.
Yeah,
and it's fun. Nobody's gonna laugh at you. Nobody's gonna go, get away from me, you crap. Nobody's gonna say that to you. You're there because you're doing these little skits and you're acting funny, and people are laughing, and it's a good time. People get addicted to those things just because it's fun. Yeah.
And you learn to think on the fly, which is critical when talking to women. Wow.
You want to go, guys will say, oh, I'm an introvert. How can I be an extrovert? Go take a class in improvisational theater. You'll have a blast, man. And you'll meet chicks. And you know what? You will use the skills that you learn in that class when you're running game.
That's
when you're
exactly
doing something
right.
else.
Big thanks goes out to Germanus Panserovis. I'm probably butchering that pronunciation. With 50 pounds, with the 50 British pounds super chat, that is a $66.68 in US American dollars. He says, can you explain if women naturally prefer masculine and dominant males, then why females in power and politics argue for male emasculation? I get that they want more power, but how can they hate and like masculinity at the same time? Rolo, this is a fastball down the middle for you, man.
Masculinity is conventional masculinity is a threat, a threat to women's power. That's why. And so if they can keep you, I mean, the easiest way to control, and I don't want to go super political here, but the easiest way to control a population is to control its males first. And I'm going to, one more time, I'm going to go right back to Alpha God, because there was this, there's a really good, I forget the chapter that it's in, but Hector Garcia talks about how when the Spanish conquistadors came over to the United States and they were to settle parts of like, I think it was the Pueblo Indians or something like that.
Pueblo, yeah.
They would come in and they basically destroyed the Indian population. But the first thing that the men in power did was they emasculated the men, and they would attack their genitals and they would attack their masculinity, and they would and to the best of their ability, they would make those men, in some cases literally try to turn them into women, like make them dress like women. Like, so it would any of the boys who look like they might be a problem, instead of killing them, because killing them would just incite, revolts and stuff. But instead of killing them, what they did was they shamed them, and they ridiculed them. And the way that they did that was they took away their masculinity. They emasculated them. They said, okay, you're, and they did it in various ways. And again, I can't say enough good things about this book, but that was a sort of a history lesson for me, because I see here in modern times, this is kind of what we do now, only we're doing it from a gynocentric perspective. So really, ever since the sexual revolution, which sort of gave women free reign, not just over their hypergamy, but just gave them free reign for the power dynamic to shift. Women in the powers that be, I should say, the reason that they want to keep men emasculated is because they're easier to control when they are. So that's why you get, we were just having this, and I'll talk about this later on with Jack Napier, but we were just having this huge discussion about pornography and how horrible it is, and how it rewires your brain. And I still say the jury's out on that, but I don't disagree with the idea that it is a form of control and is a form of sedation, because you're not going to have, if that's already taken care of for you, why, we're going to complain about guys not going to college and perpetuating their adolescence and playing video games and smoking pot and jerking off and eating pizza on the week, that kind of stuff. We complain about that. And the reason why those guys are there, the reason that they're giving up, the reason we have incels is because that is where they're supposed to be at. They're never going to get any more powerful, because all of that stuff is contained. They're sedated, and that's what it does. It keeps that part of the population sedate. The other thing is that and this is my own theory, is that we're heading right now. We're shifting away from monogamy as the intersexual way of relating with one another, and we're leaning more towards it's polygamy, but it's a female initiated polygamy. And what that means is that when we talk about alpha fucks and beta bucks, well, the beta buck side of hypergamy is pretty much taken care of now, either through the state or through direct or indirect transfer of resources from men to women. So that side, like the beta provider side of hypergamy, is, if it's not met entirely, that's what women think. They believe that it will be, and they believe that they're entitled to abortions, and they believe they're entitled to having a kid, and they whether they have a father or not. And men just, fathers just become superfluous. That's that containing the beta buck side of hypergamy. So what does that leave? Well, only the alpha fuck side, and there's only a precious few of these really good 20%er, well, relatively speaking, 20 percentile guys who are those alpha males. So what happens is those women have to share those guys. So there's this big 85% of guys who are going to go home, jerk off, and are emasculated either by porn or by chemicals or by drugs or by whatever else, and they can go to hell. And as long as they keep the lights on, everything's cool. And all these women are going to say, okay, we don't want anything to do with those guys, but we do want to have sex with Chad over here. And guess what? Women would rather share a successful alpha than they would be to be saddled with a faithful beta. And what did I just say about half an hour ago about how women's existential fear is to be saddled with a faithful beta?
There you go.
Saddled with that guy who was alpha. Well, guess what? If we live in a gynocentric social order, we can insure against that. We don't have to have that anymore. In fact, if an alpha or if a beta male goes and even so much as approaches a woman, that can be made illegal right now. And so we're going to keep them. We're going to keep that section, I guess, of beta males emasculated because they're easier to control.
Good. Very good answer. It was actually a very good question. I'm working trying to get the phone lines back up. Blog Talk Radio doesn't seem to want me to get back on, but I will be. I'm going to keep trying here. Big thanks to Big Brandon, TSR Towers official head of security here at Club TSR with the $5 super chat. It says the Jordan and LeBron of the Red Pill. Love it. I don't know who Jordan is. I don't know.
I was going to say, do I get to be Jordan?
Yeah, I guess you get to be Jordan.
I'm older. I get to be Jordan.
Yeah, I was going to say you're a little older. Yeah, exactly. There was one more good question here. Oh, Thomas Munier. We actually talked to him a little earlier with the €10 super chat. I think that's roughly $11. He says, as you get older, like in your 40s, can you realistically have a mentally satisfying relationship with a younger girl in her 20s, or is it hard to relate with her friends and lifestyle? I'm 24 years old. I can answer this question. The answer to that question is fuck no. Listen, I'm 42. I'll be 43 next August. Okay. When I was in Vegas, when I was at the height of my powers, when I was 35, 36 years old, 37, that's when things kind of tailed off a little bit when I decided to throttle down. I was regularly fucking girls in there, dude, 19, 20, 21, 24, 28. Listen, man, you're going to have to. I remember I dated this one girl. She was 19 years old. She turned 20 years old when I was with her. I couldn't stand being around her outside of fucking her because she was fucking 19. I didn't have anything in common with her. The only thing that I had in common with her is that we both liked sex. That was it. So what you're going to have to understand, and I think different men are different, but you're 24 years old at this point. So it stands to reason that you think you might want a mentally satisfying relationship with a woman right now. That might not change when you get into your 40s, but I will say this. If you expect to have a mentally satisfying relationship with a younger girl, you're going to be disappointed. You have to listen, you're going to have to sacrifice things with women depending upon age. Okay, if she's a little bit older, she's not going to be as tight and she's not going to be as sexy as maybe the 19 or 20-year-old, but you'll have more mental stimulation in the way of conversations and general company. Whereas if you date a younger girl, okay, yeah, she's hot and you can fucking pound the piss out of her and not have to worry about her, waking up sore or anything like that. But where you sacrifice is that mental stimulation. So you really have to ask yourself at this point in my life, which is more important to me? Now, one of the reasons I decided to throttle down when I was 37, 38 years old is because I just got tired of and I had fucked every blonde, brunette, redhead, stripper, dude, I fucked them all, right? And while that was fun, it got to a point to where it felt like a waste of time to be around them if my dick wasn't in them. And it was right around that time I said, okay, it's time. Okay, maybe the red pill is about something else. But what you have to understand is you can't have it all with a woman. You can't have a 21-year-old hottie who's also a fucking theologian and has a philosophical mind, right? Who has things you can have mentally. No. If she's young, she's going to be kind of dumb. If she's older, she's not going to be as young and tight, but you can probably have more mentally stimulating conversations with her in that regard. What are your thoughts on that, Rolo? Because this is a very good question.
Well, yeah, it is a good question. I think this is I got my coffee here finally. So I would say what do you consider mentally satisfying? Right. I mean, are you going to sit there and discuss like the
works of Tolstoy,
Dostoevsky, or what Russian philosophers? I mean, what is it that you're expecting? I don't have those conversations with my own wife, and she's not 24 years old, right? I relate with her very well. We're pretty evenly matched when it comes to age and everything, so we're kind of from the same social time period. I have had the benefit of being involved with some very beautiful people, very beautiful women, being out in the alcohol industry. dealing with poor girls, or dealing with even guys, like younger guys. Like I'm pretty comfortable with all different age ranges, but as I've gotten more mature, I understand and I adjust my expectations for each one of particularly with millennials, right? I can only adjust my expectations according to what my experience has been. I'd like to think that I'm a little bit better judge of character right now, certainly better than I was when I was 24 years old.
Of course.
So what is it? I mean, what are you really looking for out of a relationship if you are, say, 40 and you've got a 24-year-old girlfriend? Most guys who are in that position, like most guys can't pull that off, or wouldn't even dream to pull that off. But most guys who are like, say, 40 some odd years old and they're with those girls, and I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying that you're not looking at those women as sort of like somebody you're going to wake up next to every morning and have a cup of coffee and talk about life with. Okay. And or maybe they, who knows, maybe they are, maybe, I think the fantasy is that you're going to find this young, hot, tight girl who's 24 years old, who's going to be able to carry on a conversation and, if not love you unconditionally, but like the conditions that she does have, you pass with flying colors. Right. One of the reasons why women look for guys who are older than them is because hypergamy can't afford to wait. Hypergamy would much rather have a turnkey guy who's already made himself and has already done something with himself. And I think that guys who get into a situation, or the reason why it's so unconscionable for a 40-year-old guy to like say, I'm going to get with a 24-year-old girl, they try to make up reasons why they shouldn't be doing it. Like was it Keanu Reeves and his 46-year-old girlfriend? I mean, that's not even like a 10-year difference. But people are like, oh, well, it's age appropriate.
That's gross.
Well, what's funny is if he was like, say, 45 years old, she'd be 30 or something. So, if he was 35, she would be 26 or something like that, and then people would have a problem with it, right? So, and why? Because you're at different stages in your life, and you should have gotten through certain aspects of life. So what I think a lot of guys don't really realize is the advantage that they have. Most guys talk themselves out, 40-year-old guys will talk themselves out of getting after it with a 24-year-old girl. First of all, because they don't think they can do it. And then if they could do it, they're like, well, what do we have in common? It's like, well, who cares? All you're going to have sex with her, and are you not going to have sex with her? And what are the limitations of your relationship? And here's the other thing. Women want an older guy because they hypergamy can't afford to wait, right? But they want a guy who already knows how to play the game, who already gets it. We just said this. At 40 years old, a 24-year-old girl expects a 40-year-old guy to just get it, to have had the experience at 40 years old, to know what she's thinking, to be able to read her mind, or at least to give the impression that you can read her mind, right? And so at 40 years, and I wrote about this in an essay called The Mature Man, when a woman is younger than you, particularly substantially younger than you, and you're like, say, 24, or she's 24 and you're 40 years old, she expects you to know shit. She expects you to be in control of, or to be in control in your own frame, for sure. But she expects you to be in control, not just of your own world, but her world too, and know what she's going through, because you're older and you know this. And it's like the teacher student kind of thing, or it's this daddy and little girl, daddy daughter kind of thing. And I'm not saying go bang your daughter. I'm just saying that's the mentality there. And so things like amused mastery are a whole lot easier to get away with when you're 40 and she's 24, because it's believable. You could be completely full of shit, and she's like, oh yeah, that's good. Because you're 40, you know this stuff. You've been through all of this stuff that I'm about to go through, and that's attractive.
Have you seen this post that Royce? This is a long time ago. I remember when I was first like diving into the red pill. It summed up amused mastery. It was brilliant, and it was this guy, and I forget what it was, but he had an ice cream cone. And he kept waving it in front of this little girl. And every time she reached for it, she knew what cup it was. He'd open it, and it would be empty. And she couldn't get enough. She was tickled pink. I can't figure out where this guy was just playfully That's amused mastery. She was a little girl. That is amused mastery.
Play with her and play with her.
Play with her and play with her. She expects you to know how to play the game. So now, not to say that Thomas falls in this camp, but I think a lot of guys say, well, I need a woman that can stimulate my mind. Well, the reason they say this, not Thomas, but the reason why guys say this is because that's what they think they're supposed to say, right? I don't give a shit. Listen, if a girl happens to have a little bit of cerebral brawn, I guess that's an added bonus. Are you hot? Do I want to fuck you? That's it. You don't have to. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want you to be as dumb as a fucking box of rocks. Like, dude, I dated this one girl. I had to explain to her how the government worked, right? Like, she explained this was, and I'll tell this quick story.
She wants you to tell her that. She wants that.
Oh God, she was the dumbest fucking Mexican girl, dude. I met her when she was 9. I met her when she was 19. I met her 3 weeks after she had dumped the guy who paid for her to get a boob job. Right, like this is when I met her. She used to be a she used to be a hostess at Planet Hollywood, and it was just it was just too easy. Like, she waited on our tables like, wow, goddamn, all that attitude. Either you hate your job or you hate black people. And that started a 2.5-year whirlwind romance. She may or may not have been my girlfriend, but she was hot, but she was dumb. And I remember one afternoon, like after I just got done just banging her brains out, we're watching something on the news about some third world country. I think it was Darfur, the Sudan, whatever the case may be. She's like, well, where are the cops? And I'm like, what do you mean, where are the cops? She's like, well, why do these people just run around shooting people? Why don't they get put in jail? I said, because they don't really have a strong government. And she had like this bemused look on her face. And I was like, oh my God, she doesn't get it. And so I asked her, I was like, wait a minute, I have to make sure that I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with here. I said, if I were to go speeding right down the road, what would happen? She said, you'd get pulled over. She was confident, right? I said, okay. And he would do what? Give you a ticket. 2 for 2. She was right. She was ace in the test. I said, do you think cops do this for free? Well, she said, of course not. I said, well, who do you think pays the cops? And then the light bulb went off in her head. Oh, I said, yes. Taxpayers. Like, they don't just pave the streets of for their own free. So again, this was a girl, dude. This girl was insanely hot. She was a hard 10. Dude, she's the hottest woman. She's the hottest girl I have ever been semi-exclusive with by a long shot. But this chick was an idiot. Now, she could make a very good living being a nutritionist because her diet and exercise regimen, she had that shit spot on. How she was able to figure that out and not know how the government works, I have no idea. But I fucked with that girl for 2.5 years, and the girl couldn't tell up from fucking down. That's just me. I didn't get now. I only started to give a shit later on when she started to become more of a headache. The point is that a woman doesn't have to have cerebral brawn. I am far too old to be dealing with bitches who don't even know how the fucking government works, right? But as long as you can tolerate it, dude, fuck these young, dumb, hot bitches, man. They're not going anywhere.
Well, it gives you a chance. It gives you a chance to educate her. It gives, and that's the part, like, just the act of you doing that. Like, maybe, I'm not saying she was playing you, but like the act of doing that, like I keep saying, play with her and play with her. The act that you have, that you're doing right there, that operative that goes between the two of you, women want you to do that. They want to, that is really kind of a form of a low level shit test, is, does this guy know something that I don't know? And maybe it's out of, genuine curiosity, but why are you having that conversation in the first place?
No, totally.
Let's talk about politics. And I think you're 100% right about this, is a lot of guys think that because they're intelligent, that should in some way make them more attractive, and it doesn't. It does not. No. If anything, it's a and I hate to say it, but in Western culture, that it's almost a disadvantage. It is only an advantage after you're already in a relationship or after you're already there. Ooh. And it's only an advantage in that she expects you to be like, a woman expects a guy to be more dominant than her, to make more money than her, to be to have more pre-selection than her. That's why I keep saying that hypergamy never seeks its own level. Well, part of that not seeking its own level is it's not just, oh, he's got to make more money or he's got to be like a step above me in sexual market value. It's he's got to know shit. It's like was it Artiste Royce's 436 bullet point checklist.
Oh, right? I remember that.
It's like, so you're not all like you have to have all of those things, but you got to have some of those things. And there's an expectation that you are going to be smart, that you don't get to be as dominant as you only get to be dominant off of two things. You're smart enough to be dominant, or you're buff and you have a bad attitude enough to be dominant, right? Those are the two ways that you get to the top of the heap right there, preferably both, right? So and I should also add this one last thing here is women are also, evolutionarily speaking, women select for men with creative intelligence. So a guy who just won a lot of money on the lottery is attractive, yes, but he's less attractive than the guy who has made a lot of money in a business or made a lot of money by creatively thinking, lost all that money, and then reestablished himself again, or has the potential to reestablish himself again, and has the ability to innovate and to improvise and to snap back from diversity. That's really what creative intelligence is can you think creatively? Can you think intelligently to keep us and the babies alive should shit hit the fan?
That's evolutionarily necessary, right? Exactly. And it's interesting that you say that because Devin's ex is not a good looking guy at all. He really is not. But Devin is attracted to talent. Like she and I don't know, and I'm not a woman, but Devin is she is sexually attracted to men that can make her laugh, men who specialize in, not to say that the aesthetic does not factor in, but she seems to respond to cues of talent. That's just how she is. It doesn't make her any better or any worse, but this goes to what you said. A woman is going to be much more attracted to a guy who is a self-made millionaire than a guy who became a millionaire by winning the lottery or some sort of lawsuit. So that certainly goes there. Big Brandon with another $5 super chat. He said, "Oh snap! I forgot that Philly love. It's the Reggie White and LT of the Manosphere." No, I'm Lawrence Taylor. God damn it!
There you go. All right, I'll be ready.
Question here from Nonstop Dre 360. This is an interesting question and a brain teaser, I guess, to sort of end the show. He says, would you both give up all your possessions, girlfriend, wives, friends, wealth to be 23 with all the knowledge and experience you have now? Hell yes. Hell yes. Oh, dude, I do. Dude, if I knew at 23 what I give that up, fuck yes. Are you kidding me? Oh my God.
Do I get to keep my greyhounds? That's the only thing I would be attached to. No, just kidding. I understand where he's going. There's a lot of guys. This is like a variation of another question, which is, what would you tell your 19-year-old self?
There you go.
A 19-year-old Rolo would tell you to go take a flying fucking leap. That's what he would tell you.
Oh my God.
Yeah, would you start it all over again if you knew all this stuff? I've said this before, is like, and God forbid I ever end up single or divorced or a widower or whatever, but I think that even now at my age, reinserting myself back into the sexual marketplace, I would probably end up really hurting myself, and I mean that from the sense that I would want to do a lot of things. If I were, say, 23 and had and know all the things that I know now and had it all to do again, yeah, I would love to do that. But I think that I would probably be dangerous to myself in that instance, because a lot of the stuff that one of the reasons why I hate that question when the guys say, well, what would you tell your 19-year-old self? I would probably say, put everything you have into Apple stocks and make a lot of money. That would be my best advice I could give myself, right? But first of all, I never would have listened, and then the second was the process between getting from being, like, say, 23 to where I am right now is what made me who I am. Like, a lot of people will say this, well, would you, if you had it all to do over again, would you pass up the BPD chick that you had to deal with for as long as shitty an experience and as just like mind numbing and the pit of misery that was?
Oh God.
I mean, maybe I wouldn't have done it for as long, but it did teach me a valuable lesson. It helped me be able to help other guys a whole lot better because I can empathize. I can relate with those guys that are in that, like the guys who are there. I've just read this story about this dude who lit himself on fire because he got zeroed out, and his wife was taking the kids and they were fighting, and rather than like shoot her and shoot himself and shoot the kids, he just basically wanted to die and soaked himself in gasoline and lit himself on fire. Now, he didn't die. A guy came and put him out, but that's the kind of, like, when I see that kind of stuff, I can't help those guys as well if I don't go through my own hell, right? You can't help somebody out of hell if you haven't been in hell to begin with, or you can't help them out as well as if you've gone through hell too. I've said this before, is like when I see guys who have a doctorate
with him.
If
he calls me,
in psychology,
I'll
like,
totally
well,
fuck him.
I have a doctorate
The opposite
in,
of
what is it, addiction therapy. Like, okay, well, were you an addict?
Yes,
Did you ever do heroin? No, I would never do such a thing.
Well, then you
Well,
can't tell me.
can I talk to a guy who has done heroin and got off of it?
His arm.
And hopefully he's got the same education as you. That I'm not shitting on your education. I'm just
Sure.
saying that
But
that experience is something that is going to be more helpful. So, you know, I don't regret anything that I very few people I think can say this. I have very, very few regrets at 51 years old.
Listen, man, I consider myself. It's funny because I was asked this, dare I say, at the last 21 convention. I don't mean to blaspheme with you in my presence here, but someone asked me, they said, Donovan, do you have any regrets? And it was weird because I had to think long and hard about it. And I think the only regret that I have ever had in life, and this is because of just sheer luck, I don't know, maybe I was granted 9 lives by the red pill gods. My only regret is that I shouldn't have gone to college out of high school. I probably should have joined the military. Now, now I graduated high school in 95, which more than likely means that I would have been sent over to, you know, Kuwait, over to the Middle East after the whole 9/11 thing, and who knows what would have happened over there. But guess what? I probably would have gotten married, and I probably would have gotten red pilled being over there, overseas with my wife sport fucking away around the military base. So it all happens one way or the other. But I consider myself to be very, very fortunate. And Rollo, man, I've been in some fucked up situations with women, man. You know my story, man. We've had discussions, and I still can't believe. Listen, I don't have any kids at least not that I know of. My divorce cost me $12. It was, I mean, it's just, dude, the situations I was in with Amy and Darcy, and it's just, I just can't believe that I was just able to sort of mosey on. I don't know if anybody has read the book Harry Potter, but I've read the Harry Potter books, and he drinks this formula called Felix Felicis, and it just gives him just dumb luck. Basically, you can just walk out in traffic and just kind of luck your way into not being hit by cars. That's what my life experience has been like. And so, and it's interesting because I caught a lot of heat from the MGTOWs. As you probably know, I went on with Coach Greg Adams, and I remember when he said, well, Donovan, you've never been married, have you? And I said, actually, I have been. He's like, oh, I didn't know that. The reason he didn't know that is because I don't bear the same blue pill scars as some of the other guys do, right? Yes, I was red pilled by a woman, but dude, there are guys who have been red pilled by, like, I don't know, those guys were baptized in a fucking lake of fire. I might have been baptized with, you know, maybe a flame in a pool. So I was very fortunate to not really be burned by the red pill. So, or burned by women in that regard. The most pain I've ever been through is just emotional pain, and I've more than recovered emotionally and financially from the mistakes that I've made. So I'm very fortunate at the age of 42 to say there's really not that much that I regret in life, and I think it's because I've had just dumb luck. I remember my attorney in Vegas. You probably know who he is. His name is well, I shouldn't give his name out on the air, but he has helped me out of numerous situations with the law. Let's just call it that. And I remember the last situation he got me out of. He says, Donovan, he said, look, man, this is it. He said, I like you. We're good friends, but dude, I can't help you anymore. You can't haul off and deck people. You can't be getting into fights. You got to get this temper under control. He says, you've got the devil's own luck and it's run out. And I remember thinking back on that. I said, okay, wait a minute. Yeah, he's probably right. So when somebody tells you you have the devil's own luck, that's really not the kind of good luck to have. But I feel very fortunate never to have really, really been scorched by women. One last thing before we go. Han Solo.
Yeah, Han Solo.
He asked, will gynocentrism reach the Middle East? I don't know. Maybe it has. Maybe
already there. Go. You know what? Go watch my interview with Abu American. We talked about exactly that.
Okay, well there we go.
It's already there, particularly in countries like Iran right now.
Yeah, right.
And it's in Saudi Arabia as well.
Yeah, they're not stoning women for driving anymore, right?
I mean, you're not going to find it in like, you know, Syria, or you're not going to find it in, you know, like Boko Haram. You're not going to find it there, but you will find it in like the more advanced countries. Sure, it's already there.
I want to talk very, very briefly about this. So Han Solo says, don't go MGTOW. And I want to run this by you here, right? Because I know that you're, dude, you and I used to be particularly tough on MGTOWs. And I think MGTOWs and red pill guys are the same thing, man. Every time I try to put MGTOWs in a box, there's always another MGTOW that says, no. Like MGTOWs sleep with women too. Okay, well, MGTOWs swear off relationships. No, I know MGTOWs who are in relationships with women, so I think I figured it out. MGTOWs and red pill guys were literally the same thing. I think there are a lot of guys out there who call themselves MGTOWs, but they're not really MGTOWs. These are the lazy guys. These are the guys that think that they're owed sex by women. These are the guys that want the cheat code. And I came up with some. I call them scabs. What are your thoughts? But I don't want to talk about.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm sorry, I should let you finish. I did see your video on. MGTOWs. Yeah, I did watch that one.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you think red pill guys and MG? I mean, I think we're the same. I think we literally have everything in common. So, what are your thoughts on
that? So here's what I've seen, and I've been in the manosphere, or what would become the manosphere, really since 2001. Somewhere around there. It wasn't even called the manosphere then. Of course, I was, on a moderator at SoSwab and everything else. And I don't know exactly when I first saw those letters strung together, but I think it was probably like in 2009 or something. But the principles for the red pill that I've been talking about, that's in my books, that everything that I've said, like I've said before, is I agree with MGTOW in that they get the analysis right.
Yes.
I think what you're seeing happen right now is, I think MGTOW is just sort of the topic du jour right now. It's like, it's people, because things in the red pill, in the manosphere, things change, terminology changes, right? Back in the day, we used to call a beta male an AFC, right? An average frustrated chump. Now it sort of means beta male or blue pill condition. And at some point, hopefully, even blue pill and red pill is going to change to something else. Like the terminology will change. I can remember, and you probably also remember this as well, when MRAs were a big deal. Yeah. Because they decided that they wanted to have a movie called The Red Pill.
Right.
And I was up in arms about that too, because I'm like, look, these guys are in no way associated with the red pill, and they're only using this as a term because it's an easy, quick brand for themselves. Sure. And because and I've said that, I've said this at the 21 convention. I've said this at, in 2018 about the, was it the State of the Manosphere address? I said that, we have to watch out for guys who are going to come up and they're going to take all of these, they're going to take the ideas that the red pill has, and they're going to repackage it in something else. And I think, and sometimes that happens, and it's not intentional. It's not like, oh, I'm going to fiendishly use all this great stuff. Maybe sometimes it does, but in some ways it's just the terminology changes. And I think that a lot of people who are using the term MGTOW right now really just mean red pill. Because the red pill and all of those principles came a lot longer, way before the MGTOW ever came. I can show you posts from SoSwab where we're using the term red pill from back in 2002. Okay. I was actually using the term back then because we were talking about the Matrix and we were making this sort of analogy back then. That's why when people talk about the red pill right now and they want to apply it to politics, or they want to apply it to race, or they want,
sure, like you said.
Yeah. And so they want to use that. It's easy because it's in the public consciousness. We'll say, oh, that's red pill. Like even Candace Owens used to go by Red Pill Black. That was her.
I remember.
Because that was cool. And now she throws that away and now she's Candace. Or you get like the MRAs. They hated the red pill for a long time. Then they said, oh, we got this cute little blonde feminist who wants to make a movie about us. Yeah, sure. Go ahead and name that the red pill. Everybody will love it. Well, it'll get us that much more exposure. And now, of course, they don't want to have anything to do with the red pill anymore because it's just something that's easy. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened with MGTOW, but I find this is that if you unplug, if you go from being blue pill conditioned, if you lived in an old way, which was in the gynocentric paradigm or whatever the hell it is that they call it, if you live in your old blue pill idealism and you cut yourself away from that, we were just talking about the 5 stages unplugging. If you cut yourself away from that, one of the reasons why guys get depressed, why they get angry, why they go through all of those stages is because they are forced to live in a new way, to go their own way, to go and live in a new way that is not their old blue pill way. Now, what does that look like? What does going your own way look like? That's where everything gets fucking discombobulated. Okay. So like when I say, like people say, well, you guys just, you and Rich Cooper, all you guys do is badmouth you just think we're doll fuckers, or you just think we're all incels, and they'll very, very vocally say, we're not incels, we're not incels. And I'm not saying you are incels. I'm not saying you all have sex with dolls. Okay. There's only a select few of you guys who actually are affiliate marketers for the dollhouse. Okay. But that not everybody does that. And I get that. In fact, you were just saying here a minute ago how there's guys who say, well, I'm a MGTOW and I want to get back. Like this guy just called in or just had a comment a minute ago. It says, I'm MGTOW, but I want to get back into dating. Okay. So you're going your own way. What does that look like to you? And I think that a lot of people are, first of all, they're mistaking MGTOW for red pill. And then what does MGTOW look like once you've gone red pill and you're red pill aware and you understand the dangers and you understand the risks you're taking and you understand all this stuff, and maybe you say, you know what, I'm done, I don't want to have anything to do with women whatsoever, I'm going to be a hardcore MGTOW, I'm going to go live in a cabin somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm never going to deal with women ever again in my life. That guy's gone MGTOW. Is that MGTOW? Or is the guy who has sex with dolls, is that guy MGTOW? Is the guy who just commented here a minute ago, I'm MGTOW but I want to date, is that guy MGTOW? That's the thing, is the definition is what you do after you've decided that you're going to be red pill aware and you're going to go and do your own thing. That's where we're getting thrown out of whack. And when I watched your show and you were talking about, here's how you be a real MGTOW, all that pretty much sounded a whole lot like everything that I've ever talked about in the red pill before.
There you go.
Everything that I've ever said is like, you look after yourself. Or what is it? When I talk about mental point of origin,
yes,
that's what these guys say. Well, I'm going to put myself first. Okay. That sounds a whole lot like mental point of origin that I've been talking about since 2004. Okay. So when I look at all of this stuff and I see these guys, it's not so much the decision to decide to live in a different way. It is, what do you do once you have made that decision? And that's where everything gets ambiguous. So there's guys who will say, like, it's even amongst the MGTOW community, like some guys hate the other MGTOWs because this guy is married and he says, you know what, I've decided not to make women the measurement of my life.
There you go.
I've decided not to, and I've said this before, a woman should only ever be a complement to your life, never the focus of it. Okay. That is in book fucking 1. Okay. Way back in 2011 is when I was writing this stuff. Okay. So if I'm saying that, but I'm a PUA because I don't identify as MGTOW. If I'm identifying with anything whatsoever, I would just say I'm red pill, right? That's the only thing I can really think of, because I can't think of a better term to say anything. But I've decided to live my life in one way. I don't make women the measure of my life. I've even written essays about how as soon as I started thinking about myself first and making myself my mental point of origin, that's when the shit started to change. Suddenly chicks dig me. Suddenly I'm making an advancement and doing the things that I want to do. And now women are attracted to me because they want to be associated with a guy who has a direction, who has a purpose, who is doing something with his life. Well, that's what I'm doing. Like, I think what's interesting is when we get into these, like we start splitting hairs. We say, well, can you be MGTOW? Can you be married? Well, I'm not making my wife my mental point of origin. I'm not making her the measurement of who I am or what I think of myself. So therefore I'm MGTOW, right? Well, there's a faction of MGTOW that's going to say, no, you're not. Any guy who's married is blue pill. You would never be married. You should. Rolo, I know you have a 23 year marriage that's very successful and is ideal on pretty much every account for any guy. But you know what? If you are a real man, you go divorce her right now. Okay, that if you want to be really a MGTOW, then that's what you have to do. And I'm like, well, then I guess I'm not a MGTOW. I guess I'm, whatever it is that you want to call me, but it's, what do you do? Like, you live with a woman yourself, right? I mean, you don't make her the measure of your own ego, or what you think of yourself is not what she is based on what she thinks of you. So that's a MGTOW point is to deal with women. That's right. And not make them the measurement of your own success or the measurement of who you are. Like, women are no longer the metric of my own success. Hey, great. Okay. Does that make me MGTOW? Maybe in a way it does. And that's why I keep saying right now, because of all this ambiguity, even the term MGTOW is starting to become almost kind of meaningless. So like when
Oh,
I'm not to shit on Coach Greg Adams, but I see a lot of guys who are picking up on just those terms. Like Elliot Holst did the same thing. Like way back in the day when Rich and I were talking with him, he wanted to be MGTOW, and he just didn't understand what MGTOW really encapsulated.
Okay.
And we had to sort of give him an education about, say, okay, this is really what MGTOW is about. And, you know, he agreed with parts of it, and he wanted to redefine it, just like you redefined it, just like Coach Greg Adams is trying to redefine it, just because, and a lot of other guys are trying to redefine it now. And what I see is MGTOW is now becoming a brand, just like the Red Pill was to MRAs, like what, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Now MGTOW is the new Red Pill. And so what happens is you got these life coaches who come out of the woodwork and they go, oh, what's trending in men's issues? MGTOW. Yeah, I'll put that in my profile. And people, and you know what? It works because people come in, they want to, they get clients because they wrote a book about that. Now, I don't know what what Greg Adams, you know, background is, but I do know what a lot of these other guys' backgrounds is. And it's just them selling their personal you know, counseling, life coach crap with the MGTOW brand attached to it. They're not really MGTOWs per se, but they're only MGTOWs in that you need to live your own life and go your own way and do your own thing and don't make women the measurement of yourself. That's great advice. Awesome. But does that make you a MGTOW? And I think things are getting kind of like ambiguous, and people are using it as a loose brand in the same way that the Red Pill was.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Yeah, listen, I went on with Coach Greg Adams, and I expected for us to butt heads, but the reason I went on with him was to clear up any confusion. And the longer I talked to him, the more I realized that we had everything in common. And I was like, wait a minute. It sounds like you and I are arguing semantics. It sounds like you and I are literally on.
It's not a debate. It's not a debate on substance. It's a debate on branding and packaging. That's
yeah. Okay. Very good. I don't know. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know to know what Coach Greg Adams does as far as branding and packaging.
Well, yeah. Like what's his face here? This guy just said, what MGTOW is becoming commercialized. Yes, it is.
Yeah,
just in the same way that the Red Pill was commercialized by Cassie J and the MRAs like 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay, very good. Bodhisattva with the $10 super chat says, Donovan and Rollo, my Patrice and my Socrates saved my life in more ways than you know. Yeah, Rollo, this has been fun, man. We have been on the air now for 2.5 hours.
I know, and I got another one to do with Jack Napier at 9 o'clock tonight.
Oh my God. Dude, shoot me the link for that, man. I always
I will.
I'm actually going to be, I've actually got plans tonight. So by the way, I'm not going to be doing the red line tonight. I am going to be doing the Red Man group tomorrow, so tune in for that. I think Steve is handling the red line on his own. Rollo, once again, man, thank you very much for making time for us. Thanks for, staying extra time. Thanks for answering the questions, man, because, a lot of guys like to ask me questions, and I do a pretty good job in answering them, but guys need a little more oomph, and you're very, very good at giving men complete answers that they're looking for. So I appreciate you. Sure. I appreciate you making time for us today, man.
Anytime.
He is the Rational Male. You guys can follow him on Twitter at Rational Male. TheRationalMale.com is where you can find everything, his books, his talks, everything in between. He is Rollo Tomasi. We are going to sign off, and we will see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.